League of Legends, The Lord of the Thousand Year War. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251. A sword is just a sword. Narkson calendar, 13th year. At the end of the Ionian Spirit Blossom Festival, the Damatians who were busy with spring plowing heard terrible news. In the great and glorious land of Demacia, a sinful soul was wandering. If there was anything more terrifying than an Arxan spy coming to Demacia, it would be that the owner of the soul was an Arxan black mage. The great Demacia ranger, Mr. Evan, discovered an evil mage from Arxus. The brave ranger wanted to get rid of the mage himself, but he was still no match for the evil magic. He could only escape in a thrilling battle and seek the help of the Forbidden Magic Guard. With the help of Ranger Evan, wanted posters with the image and personal information of the scholar Letty appeared in the streets of Demacia. The three-man Forbidden Magic Guards, armed with mithril equipment, launched a carpet search of the spy mage. In the mithril village, which was reported by the hero Evan, the situation was even more tense. Every household was carefully searched by the Forbidden Magic Guards holding the Forbidden Magic Stone Plate. Unfortunately, after a week of searching, the Forbidden Magic Guards found nothing. With Evan using his life to guarantee the authenticity of the information, the leader of the Forbidden Magic Guards, White Chrisman, who hated mages to the extreme, found Javandark. In the Pale Meeting Hall, the sinister man with a mithril thorn sword and his right eye destroyed by magic took off the golden mask covering his ugly half face. The man kneeling on one knee reported to Javandark coldly all the situations that Evan had said. The impeccable and strict style made the words in the man's mouth exactly the same as Evan's original statement. Mithril Village has been surrounded by the Forbidden Magic Guards. There is no doubt that the evil Narkson mage spy is hiding in Mithril Village. There is only one reason why we can't find him, that is, the spy is hiding in the Hilda family. Out of respect for the Hilda family, that is the only place we have not searched. Javandark put down the decision-making documents of the staff group in his hand and looked at the absolutely loyal White Comely. What about the Costa family and the Dawn family? In order to avoid suspicion, the Costa family and the Dawn family took the initiative to let us search the inside of the family, but we didn't find anything. In this case, the Hilda family is a little impolite. Bunalis, do you think that the kind-hearted Miss Nalia took in this mage from Noxus? Stroking the platinum ring inlaid with a perfect ruby on his thumb, the voice of the highest authority in Demacia suddenly lowered, making White, who had been on the battlefield for a long time and killed dozens of mages with his own hands, a little breathless. Bunalis lowered his head, half squinted his eyes, and responded impartially. Lord Javan, I think the Hilda family should give us a reasonable explanation of what happened. After all, Kraken is also the commander of the Steel Swordsman Corps. I think we should deal with this problem in a gentler way, especially since the commander is still on vacation. That's right. Let Kraken rest for a while. The recent training is indeed too hard. 3 days is not enough. How about this? Neiltis will take over the position of commander temporarily and give Kraken a month off. The first team will perform a 1-month border patrol mission. White's lips curled slightly. This is why he looked down on the Steel Swordsman Corps. No matter how sharp a sword is, it is just a sword. It is always a person who holds the sword. Yes. After giving orders to Bunalis, Javandark looked at White again. Go, White. Just defend the Mithril Village. The Hilda family knows what to do. Understood. By the way, that kid named Evan. Javandark spoke again, stopping White who wanted to get up. To vigorously promote his heroic deeds, we need such a hero in Demacia. Understand, Lord Jawen. The golden half-face mask wearing the right face, and recovered the ugly right face, and then left behind. Disappointed. Eurishan, Mian Village, the main house of the Hilda family. Gallust stretch of Teking's face confronts the filial piety of the nursing filial piety. Gallister was still able to bear it, but his son dared to obscure the black mage who was boldly covered with Narxus. He could not understand. There was no doubt that this was a stupid behavior of digging the grave. You little brat, do you know what you are doing? Do you really think you are the leader of the Steel Swordsman Corps? You are so powerful that you are expanding your power. Father, I'm also trying to find a way. Meredith is a close friend of Nalia's mother. I can't hand her over to the Forbidden Magic Guard. You know how they tortured and humiliated the female mage. If you really have a way to send that hot potato away, I won't say anything, but the question is, can you do it? For an irrelevant woman, do you really want to ruin the Hilda family? The burly Gaelister was anxious like a big spinning top and was so angry at his son that he was spinning in place. The people of One-Eyed White had surrounded the Mithril village like a dead gourd. How can you send them away? Kraken's face was very ugly. He knew that his father Gaelister was right. It was not what he wanted to see things come to this point. From the moment White deployed hundreds of forbidden magic in the Mithril village, he could only hold on. Although the Steel Swordsmen have always been the strongest sword and shield guarding Demacia, in Demacia, the Forbidden Magic Guard has much more power than the Steel Swordsman, because Demacia can do without the Steel Swordsman, but it cannot do without the Forbidden Magic Guard. Forbidden magic is the foundation of Demacia, and cannot be shaken. Wait a little longer, wait a little longer. I'll think of a way. What the hell are you thinking about? I really regret giving birth to such a stubborn son like you. I'll make the decision on this matter. You don't have to worry about it. Before Gaelister could order the tribe to tie up the Narxan female mage who was under house arrest in the side room, Clerks, who was responsible for managing the security of the tribe, broke in directly. Brother, something bad has happened. Call the clan leader. What's wrong? Do you still look mature and steady? Lord Jarvan, you bastard. If you keep hesitating, I'll kick you out. What time is it? If you have something to say, just say it. If you don't, get out of here. It was Lord Jarvan who removed Kraken from his position as the leader of the Legion. The first squad of the Steel Swordsman Legion was sent out to perform a mission, and now the leader is Niltis. The messenger just conveyed the order. His face finally became serious. Gaelister looked at his silent son, patted his shoulder lightly, walked past him sideways, and pushed the door open. At this moment, his son had no say in the matter. Let's go, Klex. Take me to the room of the Narxan mage. In the hopeful eyes of his wife Neriah, Kraken sighed and shook his head silently. He couldn't abandon his family for an irrelevant person. Saving Neriah's mother Helia was the limit of what he could do. Covering her mouth, Nalia ran away, leaving behind her old father with a look of regret and her confused son. Chapter 252 No Way Out. How could you be so stupid? You let a guy with bad intentions follow you for such a long time, but you let him run away in the end? You have been a black mage for so many years in vain? You can't kill an ordinary person? But we just parted normally, and I didn't reveal my identity as a mage, and he has been with me for a long time. If he disappears, it will expose me. He should have made some rude requests to you, right? Well, I refused him. That's his slander out of anger, but I didn't expect that the slander was right. You happen to be a black mage from Narxus. It should be like this. Alas, how could it be? The atmosphere in the room was a little stagnant. Faced with the situation of the forbidden magic ring coming to the door, even Gaelister had no way to deal with it. Naturally, the two black mages of Narxus could not think of a solution. A casual inspection would be fine, but a deliberate search would definitely find the forbidden magic ring. It would be a joke to continue hiding it at that time. Seeing Meredith's sad face, Helia made up her mind and grabbed the female mage's hand. At worst, we can fight our way out. The Black Rose has lasted for 100 years, and it's not really afraid of anyone. I will never hand you over to the magic banner. At worst, we can die together. Kill a few more Demacia magic banners. Meredith smiled bitterly and withdrew his gaze from Helia's face. He didn't say anything, but just shook his head gently. Understanding Meredith's determination, Helia sighed and just held the female mage's hand tightly. She knew that her friend wanted to help her reunite with her family with great difficulty. In an environment where you can hardly feel the flow of magic, it's difficult to light a small fire, let alone use magic to kill people. If you don't resist, only one of them will die. If you resist, not only will both of them be unable to escape, but the Hilda family will also be implicated. Mom. Pushing aside the two family guards who were hesitating whether to stop her, Neriah broke into the room, looked at the two women with different expressions, and finally fixed her eyes on her mother's friend. Lord Jarvan has dismissed Brother Kraken from his position. I'm afraid the Hilda family can't hold on any longer. Nodding her head, Meredith took a deep breath, broke free from Helia's hands, and smiled at Neriah, who was full of kindness. I won't implicate you. Just say that I sneaked into your house and hand me over. Helia lowered her head, clenched her fists, and her nails dug into the flesh and pierced her skin. She wanted to refute Meredith's words, and then the two of them would fight to the death with a forbidden magic man. But after seeing her daughter's sad eyes, her heart softened again. She was finally able to reunite with her husband and daughter, and even hold her grandson. But she was going to bury her whole family like this? Considering the current predicament of the Hilda family, Helia had a moment of resentment towards Meredith, who caused all this. Although the resentment only existed in a thought, it made Helia realize that she was so anxious that she was at a loss as to what to do. After hesitating for a while, Gallister and Klex came in with several family warriors. Looking at Meredith, who looked relieved, Gallister sighed. Although he didn't want to do this, he had no choice at this moment. Ms. Meredith, I'm sorry. The warrior with the rope stepped forward and tied up Meredith, who was very cooperative. Due to their good impression of the gentle female mage, the two warriors who hated mages did not do anything rude. Instead, they thought about which was more evil, mages or spells. After taking a deep look at Helia, who lowered her head and said nothing, Gallister looked at Meredith. Do you have anything else to say to someone? Of course you can write it in a secret letter. This is the only thing I can do for you, Ms. Meredith. After we hand you over, we can't do anything else. Recalling the worried face of a certain man, thinking of how she confidently rejected the man's help and protection, and insisted on embarking on the journey alone, Meredith smiled softly, then shook her head, and looked at Helia and her daughter, who were supporting each other. She didn't want the man to pay for her stupidity. A fool should have a fool's fate. This is the price she should pay for her mistakes, even if the price is her own life. I have to say, whether it's over there or here, busy here and there, the only one who is redundant is a fool like me, which is quite funny. The redundant people should just leave quietly. Thank you, Chief Gallister. I don't have any family anymore. My two best friends have already said goodbye. I have no regrets. That's really rude. Please follow me, Ms. Meredith. After Meredith was taken away by Gallister and the warriors, Helia, who instinctively used her mind to get herself out of the chaos and contradictions, suddenly remembered something important from Meredith's words. Wait, besides me, I'm afraid that only Lester, the Lord of the Emerald Territory, is the best friend of Meredith. Yes, only Lester can save her now. This idiot. He obviously has the biggest amulet, but doesn't use it. Helia said in a deep voice, pressing her daughter Neriah's shoulders with both hands. You follow me out and find a way to leak the information that the Lord of the Emerald Territory is on good terms with her. This will more or less make the forbidden magic man restrain himself. If Meredith is right, Lester will definitely find a way. Faced with her mother's good idea, Neriah was a little hesitant. But even if they are best friends, they don't necessarily have to risk offending a country to save people, right? Stupid. Then you just say that Meredith is the most beloved woman of the Lord of Emerald Territory. That's nonsense. Why are you still considering whether to talk nonsense now? First stabilize the demon hunter. Go, Malia, help your mother this time. The iron-studded gate of the Hilda family slowly opened, and Gallister led two warriors and came out with Meredith, who was bowing her head. Soon, White, who got the news, came over with the demon hunter, glanced at the tied woman, and looked at the gloomy Hilda chief with a puzzled look. Chief Gallister, what is this? Gallister pulled the rope and pulled Meredith in front of him, saying with disgust, this despicable Narxan female sorceress actually used evil magic to escape into the manor. Fortunately, she was accidentally discovered this morning, so I sent someone to capture her. Oh, I see. You are worthy of being chief of the Gallist clan. The magic bangers have been looking for the mage spy for a week, but have not been found in just one morning. Don't worry, I will commend you. Chapter 253 Lambs to be slaughtered. Feeling a little sick at White's sarcastic words, Gallister spat fiercely on the ground, rubbing White's exquisite leather boots and smashing it on the ground. White kept smiling calmly and said nothing. His magic banning man took over the female mage from the warriors of the Hilda family. He first punched the female mage's abdomen with a skillful punch, knocking out acid water, and then handcuffed the shackles made of magic banning stone on the female mage's neck and wrists, completely confining her. No need to show off your merits, just restore the previous order of Mithril Village. Don't let such disgusting people appear in front of me again, which is the greatest thank you to me. White's eyebrows jumped uncontrollably, and he nodded with a fake smile. As you wish, let's go. Lord Gallister, aren't you afraid of the revenge of the Emerald Territory by doing this? She is the most beloved woman of the Demon Lord of the Emerald Territory. A loud shout from behind made Gallister look confused, and also made White, who had just turned around, stiffen. His face became serious, and he looked directly at the imprisoned female mage. Seeing the thoughtful female mage, White couldn't help but frowned. Malia, stop fooling around. So what if she is the woman of the Demon Lord? This is Demacia, not the Emerald Territory. The Emerald Territory can't threaten us. Besides, do you really believe what the female mage said? Even if you execute this female mage, can the Emerald Territory still bring the Narxons to attack us? Understanding what Nalia meant, Gallister continued to speak seamlessly. Ignoring the two people who sang the same tune, White said in a deep voice to his somewhat bewildered subordinates, "Let's go." After getting what they wanted, the forbidden magic guards left quickly. The oppressive atmosphere in the Mithril Village gradually dissipated. Only the Hilda family was still in an unknown state of contradiction and low morale. Imprisoned by the heavy white stone shackles, made entirely of forbidden magic stone, Meredith knew that she had completely become a lamb to be slaughtered, and had lost the last possibility of resistance. The forbidden magic guards, wearing white long clothes, and with the forbidden magic stone logo on their chests, roughly drove the female mage onto the sturdy wooden fence prison cart. The white wooden door painted with forbidden magic stone powder was completely locked. The horse began to move forward slowly. The female mage slowly sat down, but she was a little confused as to why the side of the cage facing the front of the cart was a solid wooden board. Soon, she understood the original intention of this design. Outside the prisoner car, except for the coachman, the forbidden magic guards deliberately stayed away from the cages, leaving enough space for the angry people to display their anger. The people of Mithril Village gathered spontaneously, and many people held stones, rotten eggs, and rotten vegetable leaves in their hands. When the evil Narxon black mage slowly passed by, they threw the things in their hands with their own malice. Following the prisoner car, Evan, who was mixed in the crowd, took out the rubber band slingshot used for bird hunting, took out a few stones, and pulled them tight. The solid wooden board made a crackling sound, and those that did not hit the wooden board all hit the female mage. Evil soul. Die. Despicable Narxon demon. Why did you come to disturb our peaceful life? Mage. Oh my god. Oh my god. The evil Narxon mage actually came to Demacia, and we knew nothing about it. Thank you for catching the evil mage. Please be sure to execute this devil. Smash her to death. Smash this bitch to death. Smash this despicable mage to death. She committed a crime in Demacia. Meredith let the filth hit her body and found that she didn't even have the chance to defend herself. She just came to find a friend and didn't do anything. Insults and curses were everywhere, accompanied by cold and hard malice. Not to mention the bruises on her body. The female mage, who was controlled and bound by shackles, could not even protect her head. 2 stones hit the female mage's head with great force. Blood slowly flowed down the exploded rotten eggs. The female mage fell drowsily on the cardboard, but the malice did not stop, and continued to demand the remaining life of the female mage without compromise. The slingshot hidden in the dark was pulled again, but had to give up, because it lost the right angle. Lord White, the woman was hit on the head by a stone and has fainted. If this continues, I'm afraid she will die in the car before leaving the Mithril Village. It seems that the Mithril Village is really dissatisfied with the female mage. Originally, he didn't want to care about the life of the female mage, but the words of Gallister and Nalia when he left seemed like a nightmare lingering in his mind, and refused to leave. White waved his hand. That's enough. Let them stop. What we need is a living person, not a cold dead person. Understood. The demon banner finally dispersed the angry crowd. Evan shrugged with regret, put away his slingshot, and walked away from the convoy. For him, after winning the honor and reward, continuing his romantic journey is more worthy of attention. As for Letters, he is already a dead person. Who cares about a dead person? Emerald Territory, War Workshop. In the war weapon test field, near the shimmering Silver Mountains, Crystal and his best apprentice Steiner are personally operating a giant crossbow with a magic steel shield. The main body of the giant crossbow is made of magic steel, and the base has a rigid structure fixed to the ground. The crossbow arm is charged by a combination of pullers and winches. The ammunition is a conical fine steel crossbow arrow that is more than 2 meters long and 20 to 30 centimeters in diameter. Lester stood behind the master and apprentice, looking thoughtfully at the enlarged version of the immortal shield bow in front of him. Is this what the archer holds in his hand? String it. Crystal gave the order, and the other 5 blacksmiths led by Steiner turned the winch wheel together. The pulley drove the 2 overlapping magic steel crossbow arms to slowly bend inward, and the high quality dragon string reinforced with magic was hung on the machine slot with difficulty. With a click, the dragon string instantly tightened, and everyone present felt the powerful lethality of the giant crossbow. The old blacksmith said in a deep voice, "Load the bullet." 4 strong men lifted the heavy pure steel crossbow arrow and placed it on the machine slot, letting the dragon string slightly press against the crossbow arrow. Aim. Steiner, who received the order, carefully turned the direction of the giant crossbow slightly and aimed the crosshairs on the machine slot at the simulated target on the shimmering Silver Mountains. It was a 15 centimeter square low wall made of fine steel and cement built on the mountain. Aiming completed. Steiner shouted excitedly, "Draw the bow." Crystal swung the big wooden hammer and hit the tight hammer trigger hard. A silver light shot out and hit the low wall of the mountain 700 meters away, penetrating the wall and making an irregular circular hole. Successful hit. The 6 blacksmiths who were operating the crossbow, including the sweaty Steiner, began to cheer. Crystal smiled and put down the hammer and came to Lester. "Lord, are you satisfied with this giant crossbow? What is the longest range?" "About 1,500 to 2,000 meters, depending on the specifications of the fine steel crossbow arrows. Not bad. Do you have a name?" Facing Lester's praise, the old blacksmith nodded proudly. "I hope she can become the immortal guardian of the Emerald Territory, so I call her the Immortal Shield Bow." Lord Crystal, in fact, that magic steel shield is a bit redundant, because it can't protect the archer who uses the Immortal Shield Bow at all. At this moment, a white dove came whistling from the sky, flapping its wings, and landing on Lester's shoulder. Looking at the magic letter tube with 3 black lines on the left foot of the white dove, Lester frowned. Using the 3rd level secret letter of the carrier pigeon, there is no doubt that this is the highest priority emergency task assigned to the Nightblade Killer. Thanks to Stairway to Heaven, Maple Fire Next Door, Doghead, The Chosen One, Wukang Ming, Katzg, no suitable name, which little cutie is reading my name, good morning, 7 dark nights of the sun wandering. White Fox, frustrated underscore, book friend 20170608091502104 right square bracket left square bracket absolutely banned, gods will cry, LLM Gingervine Gar. And other book friends for their support. Thank you all for your monthly ticket support. Chapter 254 First Level Combat Readiness. After taking out the secret letter, Lester motioned to Crystal and the others to wait while he unfolded the latest intelligence from Northless. The intelligence was expressed in secret language, only a short sentence. The white bad was entangled by hunters and landed in the Mithril village, but fell into a despicable trap. The stone shackles blocked all the escape routes of the white bird. It was unknown whether it was alive or dead. The forest ranger was looking for the last crack in the stone idiot. Noticing that Lester had not moved since he picked up the secret letter, the 7 people present looked at each other. In the end, Crystal, the most prestigious, stepped forward a few steps and asked carefully, "My lord, should we end this demonstration?" Nodding and putting away the secret letter, Lester's expression was particularly serious, which gave the old blacksmith a bad premonition. Lord Crystal, how many immortal shield bows do we have now? How many crossbow arrows do we have? Including the one we're demonstrating, there are 3 giant crossbows in total. There are 2 types of crossbow arrows, each with more than a dozen. That's enough. Load them onto the carriage. Where are we going? Staring at the puzzled old blacksmith, Lester patted his shoulder and said in a deep voice, "The battlefield is the best place to test weapons. Weapons are not made to hit stones, but to kill people." 15 minutes later, at Margaret's command, 3 heavy Narkson horns were slowly blown, and the Emerald Territory instantly entered a level 1 war state. As the soldiers gathered in a panic, peace was instantly broken. The solemn atmosphere instantly turned the prosperous Emerald Territory into a war fortress. All soldiers cancelled their leave and quickly returned to their teams. Shadow crossbowmen were fully armed and guarded all key locations to prevent attacks that had not yet arrived. The streets were put into a state of martial law, shops closed one after another, and people went home. The congested commercial streets were quickly cleared to make enough room for the armed soldiers and logistics carriages coming and going. After the initial military reform, the Emerald Territory has 3 major legions, namely the Narkson Black Iron Guard, the Shadow Crossbowmen Legion and the Logistics Legion. The Black Iron Guard, as the core body of external operations, is divided into 3,000-man regiments, of which the Elite Arms, Narxus Black Guard, has 3 battalions. 1 battalion is 100 people. Battalion equals 4 squadrons equals 20 squads. The Shadow Crossbowmen Legion is an auxiliary combat legion, with the responsibility of guarding the Emerald Territory and assisting the Black Iron Guard in combat. It has 2,000-man regiments, of which the Elite Arms, Dark Blood Crossbowmen, has 5 battalions. The Logistics Legion is responsible for non-frontal combat tasks such as material transportation, logistics supplies, bridge and road repairs, and cooking, and has 5,000-man regiments, and is equipped with a special transport fleet to assist the combat missions of the 2 legions. The unified deployment of the 3 legions was directly under the charge of the Legion Commander Margaret. As the Deputy Legion Commander, Apsa was mainly responsible for maintaining the public security of the Emerald Territory. He usually had the power to deploy the Shadow Crossbowmen of the Emerald Territory, and in wartime, he had the power to take over the Black Iron Guards to guard the Emerald Territory. The Deputy Legion Commander of the Logistics Legion was a Mombian named Akam. In addition, there was the Black Rose Mage Corps led by Urza and Meredith, including the researchers of the underground fortress of the Silver Mountains. The Mage Corps had a total of 40 mages, and 30 mages were responsible for following the Legion to perform combat missions. In the case of war, in addition to the soldiers responsible for defending the Emerald Territory, the 3 legions gathered at their respective military camps. After the commander of the 1,000-man war group settled his soldiers, he rushed to the combat meeting room of the Eastern Military Camp. The meeting was divided into 2 sessions. The first was the Lord meeting, and the second was the Legion Commander meeting. In the confidential meeting room, Lester, who was sitting in the main seat, was already in place. On his left and right were the Deputy Commander of the Shadow Crossbowmen, Apsal, and the Commander of the Narkson Black Iron Guard, Margaret. Below him were Uzel and the Deputy Commander of the Logistics Corps, Akam. The Angel Sisters with demigod powers were also listening. As the patron saints of the Emerald Territory, Miss Had and Sinner had the right to participate in the Lord's meeting and learn all confidential information. In addition, each person participating in the meeting had 2 staff members or deputies standing behind them as think tanks and meeting recorders to avoid missing or forgetting important matters. Seeing that everyone was in place, Lester took off his mask and put it on the table and spoke straight to the point. Everyone, we have enjoyed peace for too long, so long that some people have forgotten that the beauty and wealth of the Emerald Territory were fought for by us with the swords in our hands. I just got the news that Ms. Meredith, the leader of the Emerald Territory Mage Corps, was captured by Damasia's magic banishers. Obviously, this is Damasia's contempt and serious provocation for the Emerald Territory and Narxus. Seeing that everyone present was calm and serious, and was quite satisfied with the result, that there were no idiots who liked to talk nonsense in the meeting, Lester continued. There are 3 main points to be discussed at this meeting. First, how to get Ms. Meredith back from the Demacia people through diplomatic means. Second, if diplomatic means don't work, how can we use war to make the arrogant Demacia people realize that the Emerald Territory is not a weak coward who can be bullied, but a wolf who likes to eat meat and drink blood? Third, if we want to go to war, what kind of strategic deployment do we need to achieve the final victory and raze Demacia to the ground? In addition, there are several basic points. First, we must first use diplomatic means to communicate. Without a full-scale war, we will not get any support from the Immortal Fortress. We can only rely on ourselves. Second, our goal is only to rescue Ms. Meredith and deter Demacia, not to occupy Demacia's territory. Of course, if the Demacia people are willing to go to war, it will be a full-scale war, and the Immortal Fortress will also join the battlefield and become our backup. Third, during the negotiation process, as the moral party, we will not make any compromises, and if Ms. Meredith is harmed, Demacia must pay a sufficient price for it. During the thinking process, the only sound in the meeting room was the rustling of the recorder's paper and pen. Seeing that the time was almost right, Lester pushed open the Demacia topographic map that had just been rolled up on the long table. The meeting begins. More than 6 hours later, the sky had dimmed, and the magic steel door of the confidential meeting room was opened. Lester left with the Angel Sisters, and the rest of the people came to the hall where food was placed, and hurriedly ate something. Then they took their war group leaders into the meeting room again, and led by Margaret, they began the second intense military meeting. The second military meeting lasted until dawn, and the majestic magic steel door of the meeting room was opened again. The exhausted participants returned to their own bases and began to make preparations for war. This war preparation will last for a week, and a week is enough time to get a response from the Demacians. During this period, the Emerald Territory will lift the state of martial law in the whole city, but the main traffic routes outside the city will still be under military blockade. The Emerald Territory's messenger rode a fast horse in the morning due towards the Immortal Fortress. Carriages loaded with food drove out of the granary. The war workshop was bustling with people. Brand new armor and swords were packed in sealed boxes and loaded onto the carriages. Bundles of arrows lay quietly in wooden boxes, waiting to devour fresh lives. A 21-year-old boy from the south side of the Silver Mountains, born in the village of Trewell, an Ox and Black Iron Guard, who had made friends with the Odalcled and was eager to become an Emerald Territory cavalryman. Isaiah rode a warhorse with a sword, under the protection of 2 Nightblade assassins, with the iron will and fearless courage of the Emerald Territory, and set out on the road to Demacia. Facing the rising sun, he would personally bring back the Demacians' response to the Emerald Territory, peace or war. Chapter 255 Savage Woman. Erenmont, the underground prison of the White Tower. The shackles that bound her hands and neck were removed, and Meredith was pushed to the ground in a daze. Hearing the sound of metal colliding behind her, the female mage wanted to open her eyes, but found that she couldn't do this simple thing at all. The 2 magic forbidden people who sent her to prison had not left yet. It's your misfortune that I didn't smash you to death. Wait, you'll have a hard time. Damn, this woman's body is too dirty. Someone in Mithril Village actually dumped shit. I thought I'd take the opportunity to touch her a few times to satisfy my hand urge, but I almost grabbed some fresh shit. I almost vomited my overpass meal. Don't the people in Mithril Village find it disgusting? Can your taste be so strong? You don't touch a clean little girl, but touch an old Narxan woman covered in shit and urine? Do you think everyone is as perverted as you, and you just like young ones? Bah. How unlucky. You have to wash your hands when you go back. As he spoke, a mouthful of thick phlegm shot out from outside the prison, smeared on the swollen right face of the female mage, mixed with dried blood scabs and mud and filth, and slowly flowed down her cheek. Meredith couldn't see anything clearly, but she knew that she should remain silent now. The vicious voice of the Demacian came to his ears. Meredith, who understood Demacian, breathed a sigh of relief. He endured the stinging pain from his wound and carefully lay on the cold floor tiles to recover his strength. Okay, Service, be more restrained. This person is different from other prisoners. Didn't you hear Nalia say that this woman is the woman of the Lord of the Emerald Territory? Glinton, do you believe this nonsense? And Lord Gallister is right, so what? This is Demacia, not the Emerald Territory of Narxus. We are the law here, and the Emerald Territory has no right to interfere. Another heavy footsteps came from far away. Service, Glinton, are you two slacking off again? The two paused and seemed to be a little more embarrassed. Report to Captain Elvia. We are not slacking off. We just imprisoned the new evil wizard in the dungeon. The hoarse female voice approached the two people, and Meredith heard it clearly. Oh. This is an Arxan female mage who was reported by that little bastard Evan. How did she become like this? It was Lord White's order to parade her through Mithril Village to see how many bad things this mage has done in Mithril Village. How many bad things has she done? Did she cheat on your mother or kill your father? Ahem. This mage has done as many bad things as the people are angry. Judging from her current state, she has obviously done a lot of bad things. You just keep talking nonsense. Okay, that's it this time. If you two dare to be lazy again, just go to the border and rub mud. Don't think I don't know about the dirty things you have done. Remember, don't bring shame to the Chrisman family. Lord White doesn't want to pursue it, but he can't protect you. If you go too far, you'd better take care of yourself. Understood? Then Lady Nelvia, then, are we leaving? Got it. As the two male magic bangers left, Meredith relaxed a lot, but not completely. Hey, little Narxan mage, are you awake? A hoarse and flirtatious female voice was not far behind her, and Meredith's body suddenly tensed up. How could this Demacia woman speak more savagely and vulgarly than the woman from Raxi? To be honest, you should be thankful that a few bastards threw their rotten bladders at you. Otherwise you would have been killed by those two perverts by now. I can see that you are still a virgin, and those two guys must have seen it too. Otherwise they wouldn't want to take advantage of you. Don't look at their hungry appearance. Those two human trash are very picky, and ordinary women don't even look at them, which also means that you are pretty good. The sound of match being struck was followed by a strong pungent smell of cigarettes. Meredith tried to hold her breath, but she gave up this unrealistic idea after a few seconds. She didn't want to be suffocated to death. Oh, isn't the smell of smoke choking enough? You should be thankful that you can still smell the smoke. This is Naxxus's big name cigarette, called Baroque. It can only be bought in Demacia through smuggling on the black market. It's funny to say that many noble Demacians like your Narxan things. The Diomal blood rose red wine is even more in short supply. Ha, I'm no exception. I just like it. But it's really funny that you, an Narxan, would be choked by Narxan cigarettes. Haha. To be honest, you are really fucking unlucky. You have a good life to enjoy, but you come all the way to Demacia to give people and guns. The locals are okay. The men are just imprisoned for life, and the women can only give birth to a few puppies, but no one will die. As for the Demacians, they are trash, and dare not do anything too blatantly. Foreign mages are not considered human beings in this dungeon. Do you understand what I mean? Even if a dozen men rape you and kill you here, no one will care. You will be buried in a mass grave the next day. Not to mention the demon lord. Even ghosts can't find you. The sturdy woman with a foul mouth took a deep puff of cigarette and slowly exhaled the smoke. Meredith, who was lying on the ground, sniffed and suddenly felt that the rough woman of Demacia was bullying her. Little mage, remember, most of Demacia's magic banners are twisted perverts, especially those guarding the dungeons. When they are anxious, they will not even let go of the skin of beautiful men. Forget it, I don't think you have any desire to talk to me, so I'm leaving. Wait. Hearing the woman say this, Meredith hurriedly sat up, but found that a strong muscular brown woman was squatting on the ground with her thighs spread apart, looking at him with a teasing look as she slowly exhaled smoke. The short curly brown hair and streamlined muscles made the woman look more like a man. Meredith knew that he had been fooled, and felt a little embarrassed, but soon he collapsed on the ground again, sighed, and waved his hand to disperse the smell of smoke. So you came here just to play a trick on me? What else? I'm different from them. I don't like to find someone and strip him like a mad dog. What fun can I have? Isn't there a few things left to say? Taking a deep puff of cigarette, Nelvia narrowed her eyes. Talk to me for a while, little wizard. In return, I'll get you some poison. It's better for you to die early, so as not to be tortured by them. They won't be interested in a corpse. Unable to think of a way to survive, Meredith had the idea of letting things take their course. Forget about the intelligence. We can only talk about normal things. Of course, I'm too lazy to do anything complicated. Come on, little wizard, take a sip. This stuff is very strong. Anyway, you're going to die, so why not try it? After hesitating for a while, Meredith still took the half-smoked Baroque cigar handed by the woman, and took a sip carefully without being bothered by the saliva of the wild woman. A pungent gas that went straight to the top of her head gushed out from her mouth and nose. The female mage who could not pass through her lungs choked as expected, and tears flowed directly out. Cough 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 ha ha ha. I think you are fucking cute. I suddenly don't want to give you poison. I put out the cigarette butt myself. The tobacco inside has the effect of disinfection and hemostasis. I have something to do. I will come to you after I'm done. After watching the weird Demacia barbarian turn and leave, Meredith recovered, put out the cigar butt, silently took out the tobacco, chewed it and smeared it on the wound on her head. Staring at the cell covered with forbidden magic wood powder, it was not surprising that she could not feel any magical element. Meredith sat on the ground against the wall and slowly closed her eyes in the dim firelight. She had expected her own ending, but she seemed a little unwilling to die like this. Which reader helped recommend the book? Thank you very much. Chapter 256 Defeat is inevitable. Garvin Dark was holding his 4-year-old son Garvenster up in the air, and White, the leader of the anti-magic guard, walked straight into the white and solemn hall, and knelt on one knee. Lord Garvin, haven't they been arrested? Just interrogate them, and lock them up. Son, do you like Daddy's beard? Well, Daddy's beard is so prickly that female mage may have an unusual relationship with the demon lord of the Emerald Territory. Garvin's smile froze, and he put down the smiling Garvenster, and turned to look at White with a serious face. What's going on? When Garlester Hilda tied Letty up, and handed her to me, he and Nalia said that Letty was the most beloved woman of the demon lord. I have asked Evan, who first came into contact with Letty, to verify this matter. He said that the loyal Letty did have a close relationship with a man, but he was not sure who it was, because Letty's condition was not very good, so I haven't personally interrogated him yet. After thinking for a while, Garvin Dark was sure that there was no woman named Letty in the intelligence he had obtained about Lester, and he couldn't help but frowned. Let's not talk about anything else. Letty must be a pseudonym. You personally interrogate Letty. The means, be gentle. Confirm her identity first. Lord Jarvan, do we really need to fear the Emerald Territory? I think that on the land of Demacia, even the people of the Emerald Territory need to abide by the rules of Demacia. I thought White would leave obediently, but I didn't expect the man to ask a very sensitive question directly. This is not a question of fear or not. White, you get up first. Yes. Without a direct answer, Jarvan Dark said to his son. Bring your favorite crystal ball box to daddy, okay? Okay, the little boy who inherited 80% of Jarvan Dark's appearance nodded in a baby voice and left happily. Soon, a magic crystal ball sealed in a glass box was taken out by the little guy, and Jarvan Dark took it in his hand and placed it on the table. This thing is called Angel Dance, which is a luxury item traded by Orin and Kraken from the Emerald Territory. There are less than 10 in the entire Valoran continent. You should have seen it a long time ago. Approaching the beautiful crystal ball, White frowned. As the leader of the Forbidden Magic Guard, he had of course seen the images inside, but he didn't know what Jarvan Dark meant by taking out the video crystal again at this time. Lord Jarvan, don't talk first, watch first. A subordinate with a weak magic talent was found, and the crystal ball began to play the images when it sensed the magic fluctuations. From the moment the two girls drew their swords to the moment they danced together in the sky, the beautiful scene ended in less than a few minutes. What did you see? What a beautiful big sister. The black-haired sister's balls are so big. Bigger than my mother's. Did they get a magic weapon? Signaling his subordinates to leave, Jarvan Dark touched his happy silly son and looked at White. Let me ask you, if these two angel girls came to Demacia with magic swords in hand, who could deal with them? Lord Jarvan, we have the Forbidden Magic Stone, and any magic will be ineffective in Demacia. We have an elite legion of steel swordsmen, but they are just two immature little girls. How can they be our opponents? Are you sure that the power of the two girls comes from magic, and not from something else? such as divine power. White's face rose. The magic forbidden stone is not omnipotent. Our craftsmen have long understood that even the sacred magic forbidden stone forest was formed under the influence of some mysterious power. Then those mysterious powers will definitely not be affected by the magic forbidden stone. How can you be sure that the power of the girl's sword is not a mysterious power, but a magic that will be restrained by the magic forbidden stone? White's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and he wiped it with a silk handkerchief tremblingly. It seems that you have understood the seriousness of the matter. Javan Darkseid. Speaking of which, even if they are restrained by the magic forbidden stone, the two angel girls in the Emerald Territory are definitely not ordinary people. With the advantage of being able to soar in the sky, if they have the appropriate means of long-range attack, they can cause a fatal blow to our territory in the high sky. How can our magic forbidden stone on the ground imprison the living creatures in the sky? Do you understand? Once the war starts, we have no means to restrain the two winged girls and can only passively take the beating. What's more, the military strength of the Emerald Territory should not be underestimated. Kneeling on one knee, White lowered his head. I understand, Lord Javan. I didn't think it through enough. If you understand, then leave. If that Lettice is really Lester's woman, you must take good care of her and not cause her any harm. If she is not injured, we will treat her with courtesy. It is the Emerald Lord who is impolite. We will benefit from the negotiation. If the Emerald Lord doesn't pay a little, don't think about taking her back. Otherwise, if the female mage is injured, and the Emerald Lord breaks off relations with us, we will be the ones who will have a hard time. The corners of his mouth twitched twice. Understanding the huge threat of the Emerald Lord, White finally took it seriously and quickly stood up to leave. He was afraid that his two useless cousins would really do something irreversible. Okay, I'll go investigate this matter right away. Wait, you won't hurt the female mage before investigating, right? No, don't worry, Lord Javan. Watching White, who was sweating profusely, leave quickly, Javan Dark's face darkened. Dad, I still want to see my beautiful sister Gavinsta. Go find mom. Dad has something to do here. Oh, after his son left with the crystal box, Javan Dark called the guards with a sullen face and found his old friend Auron. Auron, who had just had a happy fight with his Yodel friend, was bruised and puzzled by Javan Dark's displeasure. Why are you gloomy? Javan Dark pinched his eyebrows, organized his words, and said seriously, Auron, if we go to war with the Emerald Territory in Naxos, what are the chances of winning? After confirming that his old friend was not joking, the smile on Auron's face rose. He stroked his unshaven chin and thought for a while, then said with a frown, if we don't consider the two flying girls and the immortal fortress, if the national war is held in Demacia, conservatively speaking, we have a 40% chance of winning. What if we count the two angel girls? Auron held his old friend's shoulders and said in a deep voice, if we count the two girls, we will definitely lose. Javan, what's going on? With a wry smile, Javan Dark sat on the marble chair. It's a long story. White, this kid doesn't seem to be a worry. If he really does something stupid, we have to think of a way. A new January, please vote. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Combat Training. In an open area at the southern foot of the Urus Mountains, north of the Emerald Territory, Xayah Silver Moon was circling excitedly in the sky, staring at her lover wearing strange clothes on the ground with her beautiful silver pupils wide open, making a happy sound. Woo woo woo, tie it. On the stone ground, Miss Hab and Hina, waving their white wings, held the fire rune blade and the star rune blade in their hands, and looked vigilantly at their husbands wearing Blood Knight magic steel plate armor, 10 meters away. Unlike in bed, the man wearing armor and carrying a sword at this moment exuded a suffocating pressure, forcing the two sisters to be extremely vigilant. In order to help the angel sisters adapt to the power from the heavens faster, Lester will act as the opponent of the angel wife and conduct a one-sided combat training. Remember, go all out, don't be afraid of hurting me. Zinna, we'll attack from the front and back. Like last night. Okay. Leave it to me, be serious. We are fighting. After making a simple plan, the angel sisters separated from each other. When Zinna went around, Mishap focused her power on the fire rune blade, rushed towards Lester, and slashed head on. The sword slashed on the shield in the dazzling firelight, making a harsh metal collision sound, and narrowly broke through the dark red rune shield covering the shield, but was bounced off by the shield. The shockwave formed by the explosion of the shield pushed Mishap back several meters. Lester followed closely with the magic steel beheading sword in one hand, slashing at the staggering Mishap, who hastily parried. Brother Lester, watch out behind you. Zinna's crisp voice came from behind, making Mishap frown. After blocking the one-word slash with the fire rune blade, Mishap flapped her wings and retreated backwards with the impact of the beheading sword, temporarily leaving the battlefield. At the same time, Hina's attack also arrived as expected. Although she had verbally warned him, the black-haired girl had no intention of holding back. She stabbed Lester's lower back with all her strength, looking like she was going to be a widow. A hexagonal ice shield appeared behind the man, blocking the attack of a widow who wanted to murder her husband's kidney treasure. Turning around with the shield, Lester showed no mercy and directly smashed the girl's side with the shield, knocking her directly to the ground. The cold air emitted by the ice shield made the girl's body stiff for a few seconds. In these few seconds, Lester constructed an amplification rune formation above Hina. 6 huge ice cross giant swords quickly took shape from the formation and were inserted into the air, encircling the embarrassed Hina in the center. The cold air froze and imprisoned the girl's body, forcing the blushing girl to spread her thighs to prevent her vital parts from being frozen. Zinna, I'm not dead yet. Brother Lester, it's so cold here I think I need a hot water bottle. Stinky sister, are you fighting? After shouting at his sister who was starting to have a fever, Mishap, with a red face, waved the fire rune blade and attacked again. Lester restrained some of his strength, only using the power of runes to resist the power of the stars, and began to feed Mishap. The two fought back and forth for dozens of rounds. Mishap, who had adapted to Lester's rhythm, gradually adapted to swinging the sword in the air. The sword moves began to become treacherous and unpredictable, but unfortunately she could not completely break the magic steel shield with rune shields. The flexible sword moves were restrained by the powerful and heavy sword, and Mishap began to become powerless. Seeing that his angel of justice wife began to pant, Lester dropped the shield, and the crushing became evenly matched again. The man who lost his shield began to have more flaws. Unlike the light and graceful fire rune blade, the great sword's speed was always a little slower. Mishap's eyes lit up. After clarifying the movement trajectory of the great sword, she waved her wings and deflected her body dangerously, stabbing the man in the chest with a sword. The fire rune blade successfully broke the rune shield in the raging power of the stars, leaving a deep gap on the chest armor. Fearing that she would hurt her man, Mishap began to reduce her strength, but because of her hesitation just now, Lester, who had thrown away the great sword, grabbed her arm and wrist and quickly buckled. The painful joints forced Mishap to let go, and the fire rune blade fell to the ground. One wrong step, and then another. Mishap completely lost the ability to resist. Mishap, you must never be timid in battle. Remember this lesson. With a grab, he took the fire rune blade away. Lester threw Mishap to the ground with an overhand throw, and then he bullied her and sat on the waist of the girl in the battle skirt. He raised his fist with a high posture, and in Mishap's terrified expression, he smashed it hard. The gauntlet brushed the girl's cheek and penetrated into the stone ground. The flying gravel scratched her fair skin, leaving Mishap with several blood marks. If I were your enemy, you would be dead. Feeling the man's undisguised cold gaze from the Blood Knight's helmet, Mishap was shocked by the murderous intent and lost the ability to resist and collapsed to the ground. In the moment just now, she truly felt the threat of death and regretted her indecision. Educating the naive Mishap before Lester could stand up, the star rune blade spun and flew towards the torso, activating the rune shield. Lester blocked the star rune blade with his armor and turned his head to look. It turned out that Hina, who sensed the flow of magic, used her divine power to reversely destroy the stable structure of the element and broke free from the restraints of the Ice Cross Great Sword. Don't bully my sister. come and bully me under the control of divine power. The star rune blade spun and flew back to Hina's hand again. The girl vibrated her wings and rushed into the sky, her black hair flying. Brother Lester, you can't hit me now, right? Hina's irregular dance in the air made Lester give up the idea of using ordinary magic to attack. He picked up the magic steel beheading greatsword again, and the amplification magic circle appeared at the tip of the sword. The surrounding wind element were quickly condensed together to charge the magic for the beheading greatsword. Pure magic steel has a pro-magic attribute, so it can naturally be used as a carrier for directional release of magic element. Be careful, Hina. As if to repay the reminder just now, Lester also shouted, which made the girl in the sky a little confused. The next moment, the magic circle disappeared, and the greatsword burst out with terrible magic fluctuations. Lester slashed at Hina in the sky with a sword. The wind magic element that came out of the sword formed a blade-shaped wind pressure that slashed upwards in the air, disrupting the stability and peace of the material world in the magic world. The violent wind element created a powerful storm blade, which produced chaotic convection in the air, causing Xina's wings to lose balance and begin to tumble and fall. The wind pressure deliberately avoided any position that might hit the girl and smoothly passed over the girl's head towards the distant sky. However, the disturbed airflow still made the girl who avoided the wind pressure unable to maintain her previous composure, and she fell straight down from a height of 100 meters in panic. Wow. I suddenly can't fly. Brother Lester, save me. When the girl was about to fall to the ground, Lester once again used the rune array to construct an upward violent airflow near the landing point. The airflow from bottom to top overcame the gravitational potential energy converted by Xina to achieve an instantaneous dynamic balance and gradually weakened the output of the wind element, making the downward gravity slightly greater than the upward lift, causing the girl to slowly fall in the reverse airflow and finally land in the man's hard arms. Looking at the cold and serious Blood Knight's helmet in a daze, Xina stuck out her tongue a little embarrassedly, but her nose was gently scratched by the gauntlet. Naughty ghost. Heavy on the cold ground, Miss Ha's mouth suddenly deflated. It was the same last night. It was agreed to be a pincer attack from the front and back, but inexplicably it became front and back. Thanks to the reader, Left Bangrain, for the 70,000 book coins reward. Thanks to the reader, Jkaling, for the 21,100 book coins reward. Thanks to the reader, Marshang Baydeo, for the reward support. Thanks to everyone for the monthly ticket support. In order to thank the first leader, Left Bangrain, who has always supported me, when the average subscription reaches 500, I will add 10 more chapters directly. Chapter 258 Secret Deal. 2 days passed. Apart from a plate of wheat bread brought by the rough Dalmatia woman who came in the evening, Meredith had nothing to eat the whole day. She was so hungry that she was confused and had no thoughts. She even gnawed her dirty arm twice. Curled up in the dark magic cell, the female mage felt as if she had been forgotten. She could only turn into a skeleton in the dungeon in the slowing time. There were no windows in the dungeon. She didn't even know whether it was day or night. The concept of time had begun to blur. Only the picture of a certain man was still clear in her mind. Fortunately, the two magic banners did not cause trouble again, which was a blessing in disguise. After an unknown amount of time, heavy footsteps came from outside, and the female mage was refreshed. Turning her head, she saw that the person coming was the 25-year-old rough girl Nelvia, who was proficient in using mother's dirty words, which went straight into people's hearts and made people want to beat her up. I don't know why she is so young, but she likes to swear like a 50-year-old hooligan aunt from Narxus. Hey, little Narxenhoof mage, look what I got for you. Putting down the plate of butter bread and sausage, the woman secretly reached into her sturdy chest and took out a small box tied with a cloth strip. Meredith was a little surprised, not understanding how such a big box could be stuffed into her chest. Can't you see? I know how to shrink my breasts. Do you want to learn? If you can get out alive, you can use it to scare your man. Hey, big, small look, isn't it awesome? After removing the cloth strip, Nelvia, with a weird look on her face, grinned and swelled and shrank her chest muscles twice, and then handed the black wooden box into the wooden fence. After looking at the small box, Meredith weakly got up from the ground and approached the wooden fence. What is it? Poison? I'm about to leave now. You'll know when you open it. Nelvia's winking look made Meredith speechless. With a sigh, the female mage picked up the box, found the lock, and opened it carefully. A silver ring was lying quietly in the box, but Meredith noticed the small needle on the top of the ring. Be careful not to prick yourself, it's poisonous. Hide it and use it at a critical moment. Oh, give me the box, I need to deal with it. Let's eat something. After taking off the silver needle ring, Meredith handed the box back with some doubts, and took the butter bread directly without caring whether his hands were dirty or not. Poison needle? Yes. After putting the box away, Nelvia raised her thumb and showed her white teeth. The poison on the tip of the needle is enough to kill 2 people, and it can kill others. Of course, you can also give it to yourself when you want to die. It's painless, efficient, convenient and quick. People who have used it can't say anything, but can only give a thumbs up. Meredith. Okay, the deal is done. Can you tell me more about Lester? He must be very handsome, right? Squatting on the ground, touching her pocket, Nelvia took out a Baroque cigar, lit it with a match, and shook the matchstick. After hiding the ring, Meredith finished her food in 2 or 3 bites, and drank a few sips of water. The female wizard sat back in her original position, and squinted her eyes calmly. The deal is done. Why should I give it to you? Meredith, I gave you the dose for 2 people, so you have to talk to me again. Hey, we can't go back on our words, right? That makes sense. Just ask. Taking a deep puff of the cigar and slowly exhaling a round smoke ring, Nelvia's eyes were a little blurred, and she put one hand on her chest and raised her orchid finger, acting charmingly. Does Lester like my style? My dear sister, can you introduce me to that Lester? I don't want a name, I just want a night of love. Puff. You who had her. The orchid finger instantly turned into a steel fist and smashed it hard on the wooden fence. You're laughing at me. Am I not a woman? Who doesn't have 2 penises? Come on, feel it. It's not as big as yours, but it's not harder than yours. Damn it. Meredith was a little embarrassed after being scolded by the angry Nelvia. It's not impossible. You have to get me out before I can introduce you to a man, right? Fuck, this is a terrible problem for me. The key is, fuck, I really ran into him. What's the key? What did you run into? Can you explain it more clearly? Shaking her head, Nelvia took a puff of cigarette. How should I put it? Well, it's that, for some special reasons, I'll make some arrangements here and find a scapegoat for you, which should help you leave here. Damn, Lester is worthy of it. He can actually make the boss of the face-biting boss surrender. I really like Lester more and more. Meredith's expression was a little surprised, but he was secretly alert in his heart. He always felt that the woman in front of him was treating him as a fool. Would he believe something that was obviously a conspiracy to let him go? It seems like she is a fool. Anyway, she doesn't look very smart. Really? What does this have to do with you liking the fucking? Ahem. I mean liking Lester's fucking ahem. What does it have to do with liking Lester? Not bad. You've made progress. Nelvia nodded in praise, staring at the incoherent stupid female mage, and said seriously with a sigh, that fools have good fortune. Really, it's mainly because Boss White is afraid of your boss Lester. He wants to let you go, but he can't bring himself to show off. The key is that he is afraid that you will go back and complain to Lester to mess with him, causing trouble for him and Amacia. After all, he doesn't know that you are so shameless, and there is an emerald leader standing behind you. At this point, Nelvia seemed a little irritable and blew out a puff of smoke. Damn it, he hates trouble. I hate trouble too. I just wanted to chat and say a few words, but he targeted me. Meredith. As you can see, that's it. I knew about this, and Boss White gave me the task of communication. Letting you go is no problem, but this matter cannot be done blatantly, because the forbidden magicians cannot take the initiative to break the rules of the forbidden magicians, at least not on the surface. You have to do enough tricks, of course, because you have indeed caused some harm. Boss White will compensate you. White? Your boss? Agree to let me go and compensate me? Meredith was dumbfounded. What the hell? Cough cough. Am I dreaming? But if I think about it, if there is Emerald Leader backing me up, it makes sense. That's true. So you're lucky to have a powerful man behind you. I also want to have a Lester boss who supports me. When the time comes, I can smash the other half of Boss White's face with one punch, so that he can never look at people with squinting eyes again. This. Isn't it because half of his face is rotten that he looks at people with squinting eyes? Really? I always thought he was looking at me with contempt. It seems there is some misunderstanding. Nelvia came out of her fantasy and her face became a little serious. But before I pretend to let you go, you have to promise that, after you leave Demacia, you can't let the Emerald Lords cause any trouble to Demacia because of you, and you can't publicize that this is a deal, and you can't set foot on Demacia's territory again in the future. These are the major premises of the deal, and a secret written agreement needs to be signed. If you don't agree to this, we have no choice but to kill you, and then wrestle with the Emerald Lords. I guess you don't want things to go to that point, because of your own reasons. After roughly understanding the current situation, Meredith calmed down. Now that things have come to this point, it's pointless to be hypocritical. It's better to speak frankly. So, what is your compensation to me? Nelvia grinned, very happy. Glinton, Service, and Evans heads. You can do it yourself for the first two. I guess you don't want to see the second one, so we'll do it for you. Boss White gave you his favorite cousin to make amends. By the way, the garbage in the Forbidden Magicians should be cleaned up. Maybe this time there is Boss Jarvan's behind the scenes instructions. Anyway, after this time, the scum of the Chrisman family should be restrained. How about it? Is it enough? If not, just tell me if you want a few more heads, and we'll discuss it slowly. You can also ask for money. As long as you agree to the conditions, everything will be fine. Chapter 259 The Magic Forbidden Disc. Eternity, east of the Green Fang Peak, running above the Milky Way. The boatman was intercepted by Demacia soldiers holding crossbows and spears in the sentry tower on the shore, and had to dock the boat on the shore. After getting off the boat with the horse, Isaiah took a deep breath, and instinctively grasped the sword at his waist in the hostility. After being patted on the shoulder by the Nightblade assassin disguised as an ordinary person behind him, he slowly let go. The front is the territory of Demacia. Narkson, tell us your purpose. Otherwise we will attack. The Demacia sentry winked at his subordinates vigilantly, and the crossbowman strung the crossbow, and aimed at the four people including the boatman. By the winged sword. I'm the negotiating envoy representing the Lord of the Emerald Territory, and I come with the Iron Will of the Emerald Territory in Naxos. If I'm damaged in any way, this place will become a battlefield the next day. Demacia will be a river of blood. You are the sinners of Demacia. The sonorous and powerful voice made the sentinel stunned. Seeing that the Narkson soldier holding a dark red metal pass token did not seem to be lying, the sentinel put down his hand and signaled his colleagues to put away their weapons first. Before he could finish his words, if he accidentally fired, it would be very troublesome. He could not bear the responsibility of the war between the two countries. After thinking about it, the sentinel still said tentatively, I don't know what you are here to discuss. It will take time for me to report to the captain. Before that, you can only stay here, and are not allowed to enter. Hearing what the Demacians said, Isaiah didn't buy it at all, and just said it with a serious face. Whether you report it or not, I can only say that you don't have much time. Of course, you can drag it out as long as possible, because the outcome depends only on you. But I can tell you that, because of Demacia's rude behavior, the Emerald Territory has entered a state of all-out war. If no news from me is received, in 4 days, the Emerald Territory's army will pass through the Nokmachi Plains, break through the Green Fang Peak and the Eternal Peak, flatten the Demacia Plains, and go straight to Erenwant. By then, it will be a scene of death. Okay, I finished talking. Since you don't want to talk and insist on reporting it, then wait for the war to start. I've got the message. Since you don't want to talk, let's go. Seeing that the extremely arrogant Narkson idiot in front of him was about to take the other two people on horseback and leave without saying a word, the sentinel with a head full of question marks was completely panicked. He was just a small sentinel, responsible for guarding a sentry post, and stopping the person in front of him was just out of duty. Usually, he would just fight bandits or something. He had no idea what was going on, let alone what kind of rude behavior his country had done to provoke a war between Demacia and Nemacia. If he just let the other party leave, and the Emerald Territory really sent troops to Greenfang Peak and officially went to war with Demacia due to the lack of timely communication, he would have to bear the consequences. Hey, don't leave, we can talk. Speak nicely, you can enter the country. But you must at least let me know why the Emerald Territory sent troops to start a war, right? Isaiah stopped and looked coldly at the Demacia sentinel, his face as cold as ice. Demacia arrested and imprisoned Lord Meredith, who was visiting Demacia as a scholar, and Lord Meredith is the leader of the Emerald Territory's Black Rose Mage Corps. The rude act of imprisoning Lord Meredith has seriously offended the Supreme Majesty of Lord Leicester, the Emerald Territory. Attacking Lord Meredith is no less than attacking the Black Rose Mage Corps, which is equivalent to the most serious military provocation against the Emerald Territory. Hearing what Isaiah said, the sentinel was shocked. Damn it, Demacia actually captured and imprisoned the military commander of the Emerald Territory? How could this happen? How could such a thing happen? The sentinel was really a little panicked. Nodding, Isaiah continued. The people of Demacia and the Emerald Territory have always been friendly neighbors, and the Emerald Territory does not want to start a war easily, so the Lord sent me as an envoy to understand the situation. However, if Demacia is stubborn and refuses to release Lord Meredith, or if it does something despicable to hurt Lord Meredith, then the only way forward for the two countries is war. There will be no peace. A gust of cold wind blew by, and the sentinel realized that he was sweating. He exchanged glances with the other uneasy Demacian soldiers for a moment, and quickly responded. Okay, I understand, envoy from the Emerald Territory. I don't know the situation and I can't make the decision, but my soldiers will protect you to quickly enter Demacia and find General Oran or Lord Jarvan to resolve this dispute. Do you think this result is okay? Seeing the cold-faced hanged man of Naxos nodded, the sentinel was relieved. His little heart couldn't bear to send the plague god of Naxos to the superiors and let them have a headache. You lead the soldiers of the first squad to protect this. Your name is? My name is Isaiah. Use the fastest speed to protect this envoy Isaiah and his entourage to find General Oran. There can be no mistakes. Do you understand? Understood. Sentinel. The captain named Per brought the other 8 soldiers to Isaiah and the 2 Nightblade assassins, and saluted in Demacia. Then I will lead the way for you, Lord Messenger. After watching the 3 people transfer to 2 Demacia wooden boats and slowly sail away from the galaxy, the sentry ran to the pigeon room on the top of the sentry tower, and wrote down what he saw and heard on paper as quickly as possible. He divided it into 3 batches, marked it with 3 red marks, and put it into the letterbox on the pigeon's leg. The 3 pigeons spread their wings and flew high one after another. The sentry relaxed a little, but saw the setting sun outside the window like blood, which made the sentry's mood heavy again. In a trance, countless Demacians died on the beautiful green plain in front of them, dyeing the galaxy red, turning the Kangshan into piles of bones, and the thick smoke of blood and fire was getting higher and higher. Don't fight. Evan was sleeping soundly when he heard the door kicked open, followed by a woman's shrill scream. The romantic ranger woke up with a start, but his legs were weak due to overwork. Before he could react and draw his iron sword, he was pressed to the ground by the magic banner in white robes and put on wooden shackles. Woman, are you also a criminal who protects the mage? Stared at by the magic banner's cold eyes, the woman closed her mouth in fear and shook her head instinctively. You must be kidding. She didn't want to die. You screamed just now. Were you alerting the rest of your companions? Are you dissatisfied with our arrest? Do you want to buy time for your companions to escape? The woman was shocked and completely forgot that she was naked. She frantically found excuses and reasons for herself. No, sir, I only realized after you came in that this man who claimed to be a mage killer was so despicable that he even deceived a weak and pitiful widow like me. I never thought that this man who was called a hero by everyone was actually an evil criminal who was in cahoots with mages. I screamed in fear because I was deceived by this criminal. I feel sick when I think about having sex with such a man. I wish I could kill him right now. Very good. It seems that you are not his accomplice. Hearing this conclusion, the woman relaxed and collapsed on the ground. Take this liar's head away. It's time for him to pay the price for his behavior of deceiving Demacia. Before he could say anything to defend himself, Evan was kicked in the stomach, and then his mouth was stuffed with his own smelly crotch cloth beside the bed. The man looked at the white-robed man who brought him glory and wealth in despair, like a butcher killing a pig, and put a sack on his head casually, leaving only a cold word. Conspiring with mages, assisting mages in escaping, concealing mages' whereabouts, death penalty. His body was pressed on the bed, his head sticking out of the edge. At a certain moment, Evan felt a chill on the back of his neck. The next second, his vision quickly turned black. The last scene in the Romantic Ranger's memory was a disc badge pinned on his chest. Chapter 260. You are older than me. Before dawn, in the temporary base of the Nightblade Assassins of Erenmont, Northless, wearing a white dress, confirmed the arrangements of several other members with a stern face. After agreeing on the time of action, he left quietly. The Forbidden Magic Guards are stationed in the core area of Erenmont. In Demacia, the Forbidden Magic White Tower is a military restricted area in a military restricted area. Even soldiers are not qualified to enter and exit at will. Outside the high wall, under the illumination of torches, Northless, dressed as a beautiful Demacia girl, smiled sweetly and greeted the oncoming Demacia Forbidden Magic Guards. Hit by the cute smile, the Forbidden Magic Guard's cold and hard face eased a lot. Girl, please leave here, or we will be in trouble. Sorry to trouble you. I just want to see you a few more times. With you, Demacia can stay away from evil mages. I heard from others that an Arxen evil mage was captured by you in Mithril Village. It's terrible, thanks to you. Hearing the girl praising him like this, the male magic banger's bones softened a little, and his face smiled more, instantly turning into a reliable look that had experienced vicissitudes of life and been tempered by thousands of times. He knew that some simple Demacia girls would fall for this. Yes, we need to capture dangerous and evil mages every day. Many of our companions have fallen forever and can no longer be reunited with their families. But when I think of the countless kind and innocent Demacians like you behind me, I can't retreat even a step. The female mage you mentioned will soon be executed because of her bad influence. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, I will never let her affect you. By the way, I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Beard, and I'm from Irwindale. I wonder if I have the honor to know your name, young lady? Smiling shyly, Northless, pinching the hem of her skirt, pursed her cherry lips, and lowered her voice slightly. It's nice to meet you, Lord Beard. Hilna is my name. I'd better not trouble you, sir. I'll leave now. Finding that the beautiful girl in front of him had a good impression of him, Beard, who was already lustful, would not let the duck in his mouth fly away. He hurriedly stepped forward and held Hilna's slender and tender hand. Beard observed the situation around him and said with a smile, Miss Hilna, your name is as perfect as your beauty. By the way, I'm on duty now. It's still early. Do you want to go in and take a look? Although he said so, the man did not loosen his clenched hands. After a slight struggle, his right hand did not break free. Noddles could only turn his head and hummed softly. Builder was overjoyed and did not let go. He took Noddles directly into the heavily guarded high walls and walked into the tower. The magic band guards outside the tower saw Builder's wretched appearance and could not help but cast envious eyes. There were often innocent Demacia girls who were conquered by the magic band's strength and fearlessness and took the initiative to offer themselves. Such things happened a lot, and it was no longer surprising. However, there were still few women who were as good as the girl next to Builder. The guards were itching to see them and secretly cursed themselves for not being able to encounter such a good thing. Then they began to calculate the possibility of multiple actions after leaving their posts. After successfully entering the heavily guarded Forbidden Demon Tower, Northless lowered his head and memorized the building layout and escape route with the corner of his eyes. He went all the way up to the lounge, guarded by the Forbidden Demon. Beard had no intention of showing a woman anything. He pushed open the door, pulled Northless into the room, and quickly locked the door. He let down his guard and began to smile like a man. Miss Hilna, before the tour, I need to search you to make sure you don't have any dangerous items. Do you understand? Northless's face showed a little more uneasiness. He took a few steps back and leaned against the wall, avoiding Beard's aggressive gaze, and whispered, How do you want to search? Shy. You are not a layman. Slowly approaching the girl, Beard's breathing began to become heavy, no longer as polite and mature and reliable as before. This is the Forbidden Demon Tower, the most solemn and sacred place in Demacia. In order to ensure the absolute safety here, of course we have to search you thoroughly. Don't worry, I've seen a lot of things like this. You will be fine. Like a pure lamb forced into a corner, Northless's charming almond eyes showed a little more fear. Or, I still don't want to visit. I want to leave. With the same smile, Beard stepped forward and held Northless's hand, pressing it against the man's delicate body, and his attitude became a little tougher. Well, you can leave, but the body search is indispensable, or are you really carrying something you shouldn't bring, and coming here for some purpose? Seeing that he couldn't hide, Northless sighed and could only take Beard's hand and press it against his heart. Actually, in fact, Beard, you are right. I carry a sword that can kill people. A sword? Tell me, where did you hide the sword? Let me see. Beard, who was immersed in the fun game, became even more excited. He naturally would not believe that a woman would do something to seek death. Well, in this case, I can only show you. Don't be afraid. Under the patient guidance of Knowles, Beard's face changed from excitement to surprise, and then to fear. He opened his eyes wide and took a step back, pointing at the beautiful girl who was older than him in front of him in horror. Fuck you, how could you? The voice stopped abruptly, and a palm hit the forbidden magic man's chin to knock him unconscious. He took a step forward and broke the man's cervical vertebrae, causing Beard to die instantly. Gently stuffed Beard's body into the closet, put on the forbidden magic man's robe, took off Beard's long sword and the forbidden magic man's disc emblem, and began to make up himself with a mirror and simple cosmetics, and tied up his soft long hair, and stuffed it into the hood. He was going to disguise himself as Beard. Time passed by minute, and the made-up Northless was always observing whether anyone broke in from outside the door. Fortunately, no perverted man came to ask Beard to take over, which made Northless feel relieved. As a man, he knew what a man was like. Half an hour later, the first morning bell of Demacia rang, and a ray of golden light sprinkled from the east, breaking through the night, and also opened the curtain of the rescue plan. Boom. 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 3 explosions came from the west of the tower, and the Demacia bugle sounded, and the atmosphere suddenly became tense. Heavy footsteps were heard outside the door, and Beard stood up and walked towards the door with a long sword in hand. Bert, stop playing with women. The meeting hall has been attacked by magicians. Gather quickly. The captain asked us to go over for support. The door was pushed open by an angry man. After confirming that there was only one person coming, Northless thrust his sword into the chest of the person without hesitation, ending his life. After simply dealing with the body, Bird left the room with a serious face and groped his way to the dungeon in the chaos. He wanted to rescue the female mage before Meredith was executed. Outside the tower, before the Demacia army surrounded the Pale Meeting Hall, 4 Nightblade assassins who had detonated magic bombs quickly left the scene and went to the White Bridge more than 10 miles away from the meeting hall and detonated magic bombs again to blow up the bridge. Chapter 261 Trading Chips. The chaotic magic element and explosions instantly made the quiet Demacia boil. Soon, Demacia's soldiers blocked the streets and transportation hubs within a dozen miles of the meeting hall. Teams of magic suppressing people appeared in every corner with magic suppressing discs, searching for traces of the magician. Soon, White arrived outside the meeting hall and began to explore the surrounding buildings that were blown up. What are the casualties? Have you counted them? Pushing aside the white rubble and picking up a small crystal the size of a fingernail, White frowned and asked his deputy without turning his head. Because there are some unfinished buildings and statues around, only the 8 guards in charge of guarding were killed, and the whereabouts of 4 others are unknown. Have you found any traces of the magician? No, but the magic element nearby are very strong, mainly fire element. Collect the crystals on the ground. I suspect that the mastermind of this attack is not a mage at all. Someone has made a magic bomb that we have never seen before. Standing up, White looked up at the tall Parliament Hall and shook his head again. The key question now is, what is the purpose of their attack here, and who are they? Could it be? Don't talk nonsense without evidence. Yes. Time went back to half an hour ago. Meredith, who had made a secret agreement with the forbidden magician, had eaten half full. At the same time, he also saw the corpse of the female mage brought by Nelvia and Evan's head. Look, this is Letty. It's not easy to find a female mage with a height and chest circumference similar to yours. Staring at the young female mage who died with her eyes open, Meredith remained silent. Okay, stop being so fussy. This woman died at the hands of Glinton and Service. You killed those two bastards to avenge her. They will be here soon. The plan is simple. You use the poison needle ring to deal with them, and then I will come in and hack you to death and arrange your body. You follow the people I arranged to take a carriage and leave Demacia and never come back. I will do a good deed. You will live. Boss White will get rid of the big trouble and report to Boss Jarvan, and Demacia and Emerald Territory will continue to maintain peace. It's that simple. If such a big thing can make everyone happy, it's worth it to die a few people. Yeah. By the way, do you want to take Evan's head? Keep it as a souvenir? Meredith shook his head with a smile after looking at the familiar face that Nelvia put in the sack. Why do I need the head? You can deal with it. Okay, I'm leaving. You get ready. Just as Nelvia was about to leave with the female corpse, Meredith suddenly spoke. Nelvia, will I see you again? Nelvia paused for a moment and waved her hand. The female corpse on her shoulder also waved her arm, as if to say goodbye. If I go to the Emerald Territory, I guess. Watching the receding figure, Meredith took a deep breath, put the ring on her right index finger, and carefully adjusted the position. Soon, the swaying footsteps were getting closer and closer, accompanied by the sound of vulgar conversation. It was not possible before. Why did Captain Elvia suddenly agree to let the two of us help that Narxan mage girl take a bath? Could it be that she has already felt the charm of me? Service? Bah. You have no charm at all. You are always pale and thin. I think you will die on a woman's belly sooner or later. That's better than you, a pervert who likes to bully the weak. Let me be frank, I will go first later. I was the first to like that woman. Okay, I just want to satisfy my desire to touch you. You talk too much nonsense. Covering his left hand on his right hand, Meredith raised his head pitifully and looked at the two people who came to the prison door with a large bucket and a bath brush. Master Mage, you are really lucky to be able to go on the road in a decent manner. Putting down the bucket, Service took out the key and opened the prison door. What do you want to do? Huddled in the corner, Meredith's fearful expression made the two people more interested. Of course I'll give you a bath. You're so dirty that even flies find you disgusting. As for us, we find you even more disgusting. We need to wash you properly. After Grinton put the bucket in the cell, Service clapped his hands with the long animal hairbrush. Take it off. What are you still standing there for? Do you want us to help you? Boom. 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 Standing up, the female mage shyly put her hands on the collar of her long gown and made a gesture to unbutton it. The next second, 3 consecutive deafening sounds came from above, and the ground was faintly shaking. The 3 people present were a little dazed, but Meredith was the first to react. She clenched her right fist and smashed it at the right side of Service's neck, piercing the poison needle of the ring into the skin, hitting it with one blow. The female mage did not hesitate to attack again, while Grinton was stunned, but Grinton reacted, turned around to avoid the straight punch attack, and pushed the female mage away. How dare you resist? Glinton was furious before he realized that his companion was dead. He took a step back, drew his long sword from his waist, and slashed at the female mage, who could only retreat in a hurry. Puff! The bloody blade protruded from his lower abdomen. Looking down blankly at his pierced lower abdomen, Glinton turned his head with difficulty, but he saw his captain, Nelvia. Unlike her usual frivolous face, this time the captain's eyes were filled with anger that had been accumulated for several years. Glinton's eyes widened, his eyes full of unwillingness. Is it good? He drew out his long sword and stabbed again. Glinton was completely dead and fell to the ground at the same time as Service. In a sense, they achieved a flying duo. Bah. It's so fucking cool to kill this humanoid trash with my own hands. Sorry, I just couldn't help it. watching Nelvia, who had killed Glinton, drag the female corpse outside the cellin and stab it several times, and finally cut her face into a bloody mess. Meredith caught the package thrown to her and silently gave a thumbs up to the female demon killer. I'm awesome, right? Okay, give me the ring, wash it quickly, and put on the demon killer sweater, and let me take care of it here. Mary is outside. You can take your dirty clothes away and follow Mary to leave here. Meredith was not a person who would waste time. After putting the package away, she quickly took off her dirty clothes, dipped a brush in water, and began to wash her body. Finally, she rinsed her hair with a ladle, wiped her body with a prepared cotton cloth, quickly changed into the clothes in the package that were exactly the same as those of the demon killer, and put on white cloth shoes that fit her feet. What's that noise just now? Meredith asked before leaving, but Nelvia shrugged and said jokingly, who knows? Maybe it was someone sent by the omnipotent Lestat to rescue you. The average subscription is $490, and it will soon reach $500. I will use the explosive update to rush to the battle power list. Please subscribe and vote for me. Chapter 262. It's up to people to plan. I'm still curious. There are so many talented people in the Emerald Territory. Why did you choose Isaiah? On the second floor of the Emerald Territory's Lord's mansion, Rose was lying on a soft big bed, staring at the man standing in front of the bed and looking out the window facing the morning sun. The beautiful body lines and delicate muscles that looked like they were cut by a knife and an axe made the woman reluctant to look away. No one knew better than her how strong these muscles strengthened by the world runes were in bed, not to mention that there was also that perfect face. Unfortunately, in this world, the more beautiful things are, the more poisonous they are. Because the Emerald Territory needs a fearless person who can provoke the anger of Demacia. The key is to make Demacia surrender with a strong attitude. In the communication with Demacia, the Emerald Territory needs to have the upper hand, so that our talents can do things better. Lester turned his head slightly and looked at the falling moon standing opposite the rising sun. That was the position of Demacia. Saving Meredith is only one aspect. The Emerald Territory needs a war to prove its strength, and Meredith is a good excuse to start a war. Rose, who was lying on the bed, held her chin and swung her legs upward. So, in order to provoke the Demacia people and increase the chances of going to war with Demacia, you sent out your brave and outspoken Isaiah. Turning around, Lester's face was very indifferent, making Rose, who claimed to be proficient in human nature, wonder for a moment whether the man's intention of going to war was to save women or to start a war. Thinking back to this period of life after returning, Rose found that she could not see through the man in front of her, which made Rose a little unhappy. It seemed that the man in front of her began to distance herself from her. Isaiah, this child, has not been able to speak human language since he was a child. He even dared to look for the traces of Cled alone and make friends with the irritable Yotel people. The man suddenly smiled, which made Rose feel a little cold in her heart. If nothing unexpected happens, he is the most suitable candidate. The rescue operation of the Nightblade Killer is still going on. The warehouse on the second floor of the underground White Tower of the Forbidden Magic Man. When the footsteps outside the door faded away, Northless opened the wooden door of the warehouse and moved calmly to the deeper part. Under questioning, Northless already knew that the dungeon, where the mage was imprisoned, was located on the 4th floor underground. Each floor had only one entrance and exit controlled by a 100-gen steel gate. The security was extremely strict. It was only because of White's order that the steel gate was not lowered today. The entire White Tower was like a little girl who took off her clothes and let others fiddle with her. After touching it, she could only find darkness and stench. All the walls of the dungeon were made of forbidden magic stone. It was impossible for the mage to feel any magical element here, just like ordinary people. With most of the forbidden demons dispatched, Northless's infiltration plan was easy and smooth. In this way, Northless quickly and smoothly came to the bottom of the 3rd floor. Before he walked down the stone steps, he heard 2 footsteps of different weights, one after the other, hurriedly walking towards the right corner in front. Frowning, knowing that it was too late to go back and hide, Northless gently placed his right hand on the hilt of the sword, tightened his face, frowned and walked out, ready to take the initiative. Glancing at the woman on the right whose body was a little wet, Northless said coldly, "Why are you so slow?" What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and gather. As he spoke, he approached the two people wearing hoods and whose faces could not be seen clearly. Northless was ready to take action at any time. We are on our way. Mary put down her hood and looked at the strange beard in front of her with some surprise. She didn't understand why a person guarding the outer door of the high tower would come to a place like the dungeon. She guessed that beard might have accepted the order from the commander to summon others. In addition, he was carrying Meredith, who might be exposed at any time. The female magic forbidden person didn't dare to say much. She just dealt with him casually and passed by the man and left quickly. The two people with their own ulterior motives selectively ignored each other's abnormal behavior. Putting down his right hand, Northless breathed a sigh of relief and chose to go deeper. The next journey was smoother. Northless didn't see any guards along the way. In the numb eyes of the prisoners, he went directly to the fourth underground floor. Walking into the half-open magic forbidden stone door, Northless glanced at the cells in the cell that were staggered from each other and frowned. There was no pungent smell in the dry environment, but the smell of blood and feces was extremely strong. It was obvious that the owner of the cell had suffered quite severe suffering and torture. Ignoring the numb and empty gazes along the way, Northless just walked a few steps deeper and stopped where he was. A sturdy brown-skinned woman stood more than 10 meters away, holding a blood-stained long sword, looking at him seriously. The scrutinizing gaze made Northless guess that the woman in front of him might have recognized his disguise. "But why did you come just now?" Northless casually responded with a little more murderous intent in his heart. "Captain Jared asked me to gather the others first." The woman retracted her scrutinizing gaze, seemed to recognize the newcomer, and became a little relaxed. "Is that so? Come over and give me a hand." "Okay." After the woman turned around, Northless approached the sturdy woman with a normal expression, quickly drew out the long sword within the attack range, and stabbed the woman's lower back, hoping to kill her with one blow. At the same time, Nelvia raised her right hand holding the sword with a sneer on her face, and threw a diamond-shaped poison dart with her left hand. With a metallic sound of ding, the stab was blocked. Northless turned his body and narrowly avoided the poison dart, which pierced the wall. "You are very powerful. You are not bad either." Since they had already torn their faces, the two of them no longer held back, and fought with swords in hand. Without the blessing of magic steel equipment, Northless and Nelvia were evenly matched with each other in terms of skills. The woman, who was good at using hidden weapons and had great strength and momentum, took advantage of the narrow dungeon passage, making it difficult for Northless, who was flexible, to play his personal advantage. Before he could think of a suitable way to kill the enemy, the stalemate was quickly broken by the woman. "You were sent by Lester? Meredith has been sent away by me." "What?" Northless took 3 steps back and looked at the woman in surprise, but the woman smiled and confirmed the identity of the uninvited guest from her actions. She did not continue to attack, but took out a cigar from her pocket and lit it with a match. The cigarette butt emitted a dazzling red light in the dungeon. The act of smoking actually eased the tense atmosphere. "The two people who just passed by you were my subordinates, Mary and Little Meredith. We originally planned to release Meredith and then withdraw the guards, but you were able to sneak in smoothly. It's really interesting. This is fucking fate. Release. Aren't you going to kill Ms. Meredith?" That was just to maintain the dignity of the magic banner and show it to others. Knowing Meredith's identity, Boss White would not dare to hurt Little Meredith. After all, Boss Lester is the most powerful person. If you don't believe it, go to that cell and take a look. The corpse disguised as Letty has been dealt with by me. That was Meredith's scapegoat. To be honest, I don't know why Boss White could make such a stupid decision. If he couldn't beat the Emerald Lord, he could just surrender. Why did he make a simple matter so complicated? Nelvia paused, sighed, and added, "Demacia shouldn't be like this. If it's just a cesspool, then there's nothing we can do about it." Chapter 263 Success depends on heaven. While the woman was smoking, Noddles brushed past her cautiously and went to the inner cell. He saw 2 corpses of forbidden magic men lying on the ground and a female corpse whose face was slashed by swords and knives. Judging from the death of the corpses, the person who did it was undoubtedly a cruel guy. After squatting down and observing carefully, Noddles confirmed that the female corpse was indeed not Meredith herself. Combining the toiletries on the ground and the wet hooded man he had just seen, Noddles finally believed what the woman said and agreed that the hooded man was Meredith. Standing up, Noddles looked at the tall woman and frowned. "Where are your men going to take Ms. Meredith?" "Hey, your question is a bit stupid. After all this trouble, where can they take her except leaving Demacia? But you, with such a strong smell of blood on your body, must have killed a lot of us, right?" Nelvia leaned against the door of the cell, slowly exhaled smoke rings, and squinted her eyes. "I've been busy for little Meredith, and in the end you've caused another destruction, and killed so many of my men. I can't let you go just like that. I'm not happy. This is not how it's done." Being blocked in the cell by the woman, Northless took a step back and said coldly, "So what do you want? Wash your face before you talk. Don't walk around in front of that idiot Beard's face. It makes me sick." Knowing that the woman would not compromise, Northless was not a hesitant person. He washed his face with clean water in the bucket and spread his long hair, revealing his feminine and delicate appearance. Pa. The cigar fell to the ground. Nelvia, who was stunned, looked at the beautiful man who was like a lotus emerging from the water. Her breathing became heavier. For the first time, she had a strong emotional impulse. "Fuck, I've never seen a more beautiful man than you in my life. Are you really a man?" The hoarse female voice was very aggressive, which gave Northless a bad premonition. He always had the illusion that he was the woman in front of this woman. "Stop talking nonsense. What do you want?" "Need I say, I want to fuck you." Northless, who was ready to deal with all difficulties and even die, was completely stunned. Is this woman really okay? Nelvia, who was full of swear words, pointed upwards with a serious face. "Don't blame me for being blunt and unpleasant. Think about it. Although there are many scum and trash in the team of the Forbidden Magicians, I'm a Damatian after all. You fucking killed so many of us, planted bombs, and made such a big scene. How much trouble do I have to deal with, and how much ass do I have to clean up? If I'll let you go for nothing, what kind of dungeon guard would I be? I might as well go home and have children." For a moment, Northless felt humiliated. As the top killer of the Night's Edge, and one of the 5 original killers, he was actually threatened by a woman. Isn't this what he should do? It's not impossible to kill a woman, but the probability is too low when the enemy is outnumbered. If I can't keep my body useful, I will never see my beloved man again. Noddles knew that when this thought came to his mind, he had already surrendered halfway. He couldn't imagine not being able to see his master, and this was also what Ilna thought. "Listen, beautiful man, I don't want to go against the Emerald Leader, nor do I want to fight you to death, but I can't just let you go. Then I can only do what I can, and make some simple requests. At least I have to make up for my losses, right? I have to make back my money, brother." The woman pointed at the sword in her hand with her empty finger, and then pointed at herself. "You don't have much time. Before others come, tell me, which one do you choose, the sword or me? You are such a pervert. You actually said such a disgusting thing openly, and you seem to be very proud of it." Noddles put down the long sword in his hand sarcastically, and spoke in the woman's wanton smile. "I can choose you, but I also have a condition." Picking up the still burning cigar, wiping it and putting it in her mouth, Nelvia looked indifferent after taking a puff. For her, as long as she can achieve her goal, it's fine. "You say, I'm listening. As long as it's not too much, I can do anything. I have to contact you as a woman, because my body belongs to only one man, but that person is not you. I can't let you intervene between me and him as a third party. For that man, I can only accept the result of being intervened by a third party. This humiliation will be borne by me, so my fiancé will become your prey." After gathering the long hair by his ears, Noddles turned into his fiancée, Hilna. His eyes became 3 points softer, and his voice began to become thinner. "If you like Hilna, hurry up." Barbarok cigar fell to the ground for the second time. In front of the suddenly feminine man, the energetic woman was stunned for a moment. After a few seconds of silence, Nelvia silently rolled up her sleeves and completely put the man on an equal footing. "Damn, I met a master. More than a week has passed since the magic attack on Aranmont in Demacia. In the countryside of Demacia, a carriage with a light blue military flag was bumping on the road to Jangle. Isaiah sat in the carriage, and his stinky expression made the Demacia soldier accompanying him feel that he owed him 100 Shurima gold coins, but the sleepiness caused by the long journey was reduced a lot. It has been 12 days since entering Demacia. Even if they travel day and night by speedboat and horse, it is difficult to shorten the distance between Emerald Territory and Demacia. Fortunately, the Milky Way under the Green Tooth Peak saved a lot of effort for the group and greatly shortened the time spent on the road. It seems that everything is going well, but he doesn't know that Meredith, whom he wants to rescue, has left the dungeon and is on the way to Emerald Territory. 9 days ago, he relied on the Nightblade Killer to pass the message to Emerald Territory and the secret base of Demacia. Since then, he has been running on the road. Until today, he has lost contact with Emerald Territory and does not know the latest information from Northless. At the same time, after receiving the latest news from Isaiah through the Nightblade Assassin, combined with the latest intelligence from Knowles on Meredith's whereabouts, Lester thought about it and sighed that man's plans are not as good as God's plans. In the end, he chose to give up large-scale military operations to avoid wasting food. After the leader of the Forbidden Demons, White, made such a fuss, Demacia just happened to have a written exemption agreement signed by Meredith, which completely disrupted Lester's plan. If he continued to use Meredith as an excuse to intimidate Demacia and start a war, the Emerald Territory would become the unrighteous party. Although in Lester's view, the Emerald Territory, which took advantage of the aggressive Naxos to annex the Nokmachi Plains and the south of the Silver Mountains, did not have any substantial positive effect on its reputation outside, it would be a bit stupid to be condemned by Demacia diplomatically without preparing to completely swallow Demacia and become the tree of the beautiful forest. Either don't do it, or if you want to fight, you have to fight it thoroughly. Because this sudden war action was just to use Meredith to intimidate Demacia from the beginning, to show off military power to neighboring countries, and to attract talents and excellent foreign population to settle in. Going to war is another outcome that will only occur if Demacia is stupid. In addition, this action can also test the organization of the commanders of the various legions in the Emerald Territory for large-scale military operations, accumulate military dispatch and command experience at the level of thousands of people, and accumulate war experience for military talents and senior generals. From the beginning, Lester knew that Demacia would not make a fuss about Meredith, because the Emerald Territory had 2 angels that could not be dealt with, which meant that Demacia would give in, and the 2 forces would most likely not fight. In Lester's plan, during the negotiation period, when Isaiah was away, the Emerald Territory, which held the moral position, led a large-scale military expedition for its own mage group. The impolite Demacia, which was too weak to start a war, surrendered and apologized. The Emerald Territory withdrew its troops on the premise of handing over Meredith. This was the most likely and ideal situation. As long as Demacia was subdued, Demacia's potential allies would lose the confidence to resist in the subsequent expansion. There was also a very small possibility that Meredith had been killed by the forbidden magic, or had been seriously insulted. In this case, the Emerald Territory would officially declare war on Demacia and launch a full-scale war with the strategic goal of occupying Erenmont, turning the war plan passed at the military meeting into a cruel and great history. If it really came to that, if there were no other force majeure and unexpected natural disasters, Demacia would become the dust of history. Although he did not want to change the development trajectory of Runeland too much, nor did he want to be too prominent to avoid natural disasters or man-made disasters, it was definitely not Lester's style to be timid and afraid to act when the time came, or when others bullied him. Destroying Demacia, even breaking away from Naxos, and conquering the Immortal Fortress, has always been in Lester's consideration. He has always been reluctant to take action, just because it is unnecessary, or in other words, such a big move does not have enough moving benefits. He did not take action simply because it is not worth it. Compared with the risks, what can be gained is too little. The reason for not taking action is definitely not because he is afraid that the original history will be changed, so that he will no longer know the future events and the endings of certain stories. For Lester, the current progress is always more important than the prediction of the future. If he has the strength to dominate Runeland and beat the Aspect Dragon King now, who cares whether he can find and subdue Syndra 100 years later? if conquering Erenmont would make Riz an obedient little brother who would voluntarily hand over the world rune, then according to Lester's style, the Emerald Territory's army would appear on Erenmont's land the next day, riding on Jarvandark's face and attacking, making Demacia a thing of the past. With the help of runes and Riz, even if the Protoss descended to the earth and the Darkin were born, Lester would have the confidence to fight them, and see whose fist was harder. Lester was not afraid that the Emerald Territory could not defeat Demacia. At this time, Demacia could only rely on the Forbidden Stone Wall and the Steel Swordsman Legion, and these two were restrained by the Immortal Shieldbow, Darkson Blackguard, and Darkblood Crossbow Guard. The Emerald Territory had what Demacia had, and the Emerald Territory also had the Angel Sisters air combat unit that Demacia did not have. Without considering external factors, if this could be defeated, then the Emerald Territory would have no meaning to exist. In this era, without the protection of the twin angels Kael and Morgana, without Galio who built the Forbidden Stone Colossus, and without the Demacia Dragon Bad Knights and the Illuminati Mage Corps, the Demacia Legion and the Steel Swordsman Legion led by Auron alone would never be the opponent of the Emerald Territory. Having managed the Emerald Territory for so long, Lester, as a modern visitor from another alien world, still has this confidence. However, accidents will eventually appear in the most unexpected places, which makes people feel helpless. The two expected endings were destroyed by the petty thief White by mistake, which not only saved Demacia's face, but also made the Emerald Territory, which sent Isaiah, a little bit difficult to get off the tiger. It must be said that plans can never keep up with changes. This is reality. Literary stories need logic, but reality does not. Sitting on the soft leather mahogany chair, Lester patted Evelyn's head with a wry smile, motioning the glutton who was living in him to squat down, but he spread out the map of the southern part of the Valoran continent on the big table, looking at the mountains and rivers on the map, and fell into deep thought. This war will definitely not start, but the troops and supplies that have been assembled cannot be wasted. It is better to change it into a small-scale military exercise, so that it will not be in vain. Erenmont, the building complex made of pure white forbidden magic stone is solemn and solemn. In the center, the tallest square-roofed conference hall is particularly conspicuous. In the main seat of the conference hall, one of the founders of Demacia, Jarvandark, was frowning and carefully looking at the confidential information sent back by Demacia spies at the risk of his life. On both sides, sat representatives of Demacia's powerful families, and two staff members and deputies standing behind the representatives. Seeing Jarvandark's face was not right, the rest of the people looked at each other, tense and silent, and the atmosphere was very heavy. As the representative of the Hilda family, Kraken sat in the second seat on Jarvandark's right. Although his identity as the captain of the Steel Swordsman Legion is still in the vacation state, as the most outstanding young generation of the Hilda family, he is still qualified to represent the Hilda family in the highest meeting to decide the future fate of Demacia. After handing the secret letter to Bunalis behind him, and asking him to put it away, Gavindark looked at the first person on his right, White Chrisman, who represented the Chrisman family. White, where is Ms. Meredith from Emerald Territory? 4K words, 2 chapters in 1. Please stop raising it, or the author will be confused. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 No Martial Ethics. Facing everyone's gaze, White, who was wearing a half mask on his right face, responded in a deep voice. Yesterday, I received a message from the sentry pigeon that Ms. Meredith and Mary, the magic forbidden person who was responsible for escorting her, have safely arrived in Argyle. As for Argyle, it is not far from Greentooth Peak. Looking around at everyone, Jarvandark said with a serious face. But the latest intelligence shows that the Emerald Territory has not stopped military mobilization, so we still need to be prepared for war. Hearing this news, everyone's face changed. At first, when they heard that there might be a war between the Emerald Territory and Naxos, they didn't take it seriously. Later, they heard that the Emerald Territory was really assembling troops on a large scale. Fortunately, White promptly solved the excuse for war through special means, which made everyone feel relieved again. But, why is the army of the Emerald Territory still in action? What should we do? General Oren is on his way to Jandal to hold talks with the Emerald Territory's envoys. How should we deal with this sudden war? The speaker was from the patriarch of the Costa family. The middle-aged man looked very uneasy. No, we already have a written agreement left by Ms. Meredith. After we secretly sent Meredith away, the Emerald Territory has lost its excuse to send troops. I think the possibility of this war breaking out is very small. White spoke out his speculation after discussing it with Garvindark, and Garvindark immediately calmed everyone's emotions. White is right. The military mobilization of the Emerald Territory is not necessarily to start a war, but if they insist on going to war, we will fight them. Demacia has never been afraid of war. This land belongs to Demacia, and we will never back down. After everyone's emotions were mobilized, Garvindark said in a deep voice, General Oren will give the result soon, and we also need to prepare for war. I want to see what the Emerald Territory can say without Meredith. After nearly a month of traveling, Isaiah finally arrived at the eastern town of Jandal in Demacia before the sun completely set. After agreeing on a meeting time for tomorrow, Isaiah and 2 Nightblade assassins stayed in the largest hotel in the town. Under the instructions of the military, the owner of the hotel arranged the most upscale accommodation for the group, and ordered many famous local delicacies in the tavern to entertain the foreign envoys. The expenses were paid by the military. Whether it was the owner of the hotel or the tavern, they were naturally willing to take out the best things to complete the tasks assigned by the superiors. There were not many opportunities to make friends with the powerful. After eating a dinner with the characteristics of the Demacia Plains, Isaiah and 2 assassins disguised as guards moved into a luxuriously decorated single room. That night, the Nightblade assassin left the room in disguise and disappeared into the night under the eyes of the Demacia soldiers. In order to obtain important intelligence about Demacia, members of the Nightblade set up secret bases in every important town in Demacia. In Jandal, the base of the Nightblade was a small farm in the north. The two sides quickly contacted each other and exchanged the latest intelligence. When they quietly bypassed the surveillance guards and returned to the room again, Isaiah and the other Nightblade assassins learned that Meredith had been secretly released by the Demacia people and also received the latest orders from the Emerald Territory. In other words, now our mission has been changed to eating, drinking and having fun in Demacia before Ms. Meredith returns to the Emerald Territory. Isaiah's face was a little strange. Can I understand it this way? Hearing Isaiah say this, even the indifferent Nightblade assassin was a little speechless. He clearly said that he would continue to put pressure on Demacia with an uninformed attitude, wait for the Demacia officials to give a clear response, and then wait for further instructions on the grounds that Meredith had not returned yet. But he didn't say anything about eating, drinking and having fun. But with the special hospitality of the Demacia officials, it seems that the result is not bad. Well, it should be. Is that so? Frowning, Isaiah sighed, always feeling that he was one step further away from his ideal of leaving a name in the history of the Emerald Territory. He was still thinking about becoming famous as the envoy who started the war like Kled, but it seems that this time it won't work. Then wait until tomorrow's communication and enjoy yourself for a while. This trip can't be in vain. The next day, the meeting with General Oren was held as scheduled at a secret base in Jandal. Both parties sat in their respective seats. Even when facing Oren, the general of Demacia and the supreme leader of the Demacia Legion, Isaiah didn't show any good face, but just nodded with a sour face. Sitting at the table, Oren could see at a glance that the young envoy from the Emerald Territory who bullied him was a fool. Then Oren fell into deep thought, thinking about the intention of Lester to send a fool envoy. Could it be that the Emerald Territory has really coveted the territory of Demacia for a long time and only found such a nitpicking and disgusting person to anger Demacia? Lord Oren, you are a soldier, and so am I. No one likes to talk about useless nonsense, so I think we should get straight to the point and talk about the matter of Commander Meredith being captured and detained by you. Isaiah's straightforward attitude made Oren nod his head. He was also a person who liked to get things done, and he was happy to put aside the nonsense of hypocrisy. Of course, this is what I want to say. He waved his hand, and the deputy behind him handed over a cardboard tube and carefully took out the written agreement from it. There are some misunderstandings between us. In fact, Ms. Meredith has successfully left Demacia. This is the agreement she wrote personally. I think you should take a look at it. Raising his eyebrows in surprise, and looking at the guards behind him, Isaiah took the scroll, looked at it carefully, then frowned and threw the scroll on the table like garbage, making the Demacians present jump their eyelids. Lord Oren, this is just a unilateral agreement, and cannot be used as evidence. There is no doubt that you can also come up with such a despicable thing by coercing Commander Meredith. Moreover, the Emerald Territory has not received any news of Commander Meredith's return, so this thing cannot be counted. We don't even know what the so-called Ms. Meredith will not pursue any responsibility from Demacia on this scroll means. How much harm have you caused to Commander Meredith to write such a mean-spirited statement to shirk responsibility? If you just use this useless thing to fool me, I think you should understand what the consequences will be. In just a few words, Oren understood why a young man appeared at the negotiation table of two major forces. The young soldier in front of him had no martial ethics. Chapter 265 The Road to Atonement. As the clouds of war between the two powers gradually dissipated, the lonely traveler finally arrived at a new destination. Leaving the cruel and indifferent Icehell, the hooded wanderer set foot on the land of Erenwant. The rune mage wrapped his body tightly and bound the arcane magic deep in his body. Even if there were magic bands holding magic band discs to search and test, they could not find any signs of magic. As for the blue-purple skin, the magic bands of Demacia would not care so much if they confirmed that the freak was not a mage. On the Valoran continent, humanoid creatures who like to dye their bodies into another color are not too rare, such as a blue-purple skinned yodel. I haven't seen it for more than 10 years. Demacia has become a different look. Standing in the white and tall magic bandstone buildings, Riz in the crowd looked a little dazed and a little out of place. Clothes styles he had never seen before, dazzling commercial shops, children playing with small windmills, solemn white stone streets. Everything in front of him seemed to have appeared in a dream. In the decades since the Rune War, Riz had never seen such vitality and prosperity again. Although it was still not comparable to the former Blessed Island, it still moved the lonely Riz. The world is constantly developing. As long as there is no interference from the runes, humans will eventually create countless brilliant miracles again. This is the meaning of his willingness to endure 100 years of solitude. Uncle, are you lost? A little boy noticed the hooded man who was a little out of place and trotted towards him, but was not scared by the tight cloth band on the hooded man's face. Where are you going? I can take you there. My home is nearby. Crouching down to make his eyes level with the little boy, Riz knew that his face had never been well received, but he still couldn't help asking. Child, aren't you afraid of me? I must be very strange in the eyes of normal people, right? The boy looked at the blue-purple skin exposed in the gap of the cloth, but shook his head firmly. Uncle, I'm not afraid of you, because there is a soldier uncle who protects the people of Demacia, and I think uncle is a good man. I will not be afraid of good people. Good man, huh? The man was stunned, and felt his shoulders suddenly sank, as if he was carrying a mountain. The simple word good man was too heavy for him. Chewing on the innocent words from the little boy's mouth, the wandering wizard suddenly recalled the moment in the past when he used arcane magic to sneak attack the unsuspecting teacher and killed his mentor. Teacher Tiras, who was as kind to his apprentice as a father, died in such an unclear way because of the arcane magic he taught himself. How sad and confused it was. To this day, Riz still clearly remembers the puzzlement and sadness in his teacher's eyes before he was completely annihilated by arcane magic. He probably never dreamed that he would die at the hands of a student he valued, loved, and was most proud of. Even if there were reasons for doing so, how could a student who killed his teacher be qualified to be called a good person by others? With his shoulders slumped, Riz found that he was not qualified to be a good person at all, and he was not even worthy of being called a person. Uncle? What's wrong with you, uncle? Trembling involuntarily, Riz came back to his senses from his grief and gently touched the little boy's head with his gloved hand. What a good boy. Uncle is not lost. Go and find your family. After hesitating for a while, the boy nodded obediently and waved his little hand to Riz. Okay, goodbye uncle, goodbye, be careful on the road, don't fall. After watching the little boy leave, and confirming that the little boy would not be in any danger, Riz sighed and started walking aimlessly again. In any case, he could not stop, before he stopped breathing. Sinners should embark on the path of atonement. The sin of killing the mentor and the responsibility of recovering the rune must be borne by someone. In the land of Demacia, there is an area that is absolutely not allowed to be touched by outsiders. The Forbidden Magic Stone Forest, with heavy guards and towers, is the most important land in Demacia, without a doubt. As the foundation of the country, the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest is fully protected, and the forbidden area with a radius of hundreds of miles is deliberately enclosed. The Forbidden Magic Guard, the Demacia Legion and the Steel Swordsman Legion are stationed outside the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest all year round, guarding the safety of hundreds of towering trees with a serious and harsh attitude. Anyone who trespasses into the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest will be ruthlessly wiped out after the second warning is ineffective. The workers who are responsible for taking care of and collecting the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest can be said to be one of the most socially prestigious professions in Demacia. Outsiders can't get in touch with the beautiful and holy white forests, no matter how hard they try. Only those lucky people with family backgrounds or support from big businessmen can enter the mysterious Forbidden Magic Stone Forest through internal introductions and become sacred gardeners who maintain the growth of the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest for life. They are called gardeners, but in fact they are just collectors, because the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest does not need human maintenance at all. The workers in the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest are mainly responsible for collecting fallen branches, nurturing and watering the trees, scraping off excess bark powder, and cutting off crooked branches, so that every section of white forest can thrive. The pruned branches and crooked branches of the Forbidden Magic Forest will be cut down, ground into white tree powder like white flour through special processing, and transported out of the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest in barrels by soldiers, and transported to stonemason workshops in various parts of Demacia for further processing of forbidden magic stones. There are two ways to process it. The white tree powder is blended into a paste and evenly applied to the cut building stone or wood, waiting for solidification and a second finishing and polishing. After this process, marble or other ordinary building materials will become solemn and sacred forbidden magic bricks, becoming building materials that absorb magic and disrupt the flow of magic. In addition, the tree powder of the Forbidden Magic Forest can also be directly mixed with lime powder in a certain proportion, and high purity forbidden magic bricks can be produced by firing. Because this method consumes a lot of tree powder, and the annual output of the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest is limited, high purity forbidden magic bricks are mainly supplied to the military for repairing military fortresses and key urban construction. Except for a small number of powerful people who live in mansions made entirely of forbidden magic bricks, most Demacians just paint the walls with a brush to make their houses not too eye-catching in the uniform white, so as not to be excluded. The greater the purity and density of the tree powder, the stronger its absorption and suppression of magic power. After more than 10 years of continuous improvement, as the most important town in Demacia, Arenmont has become an absolute forbidden place for mages. In Arenmont, in addition to the large amount of mana that has been blocked in advance, it is impossible for mages to obtain a little mana supplement from the outside world through meditation. Even under the strong suppression, the mana that leaves the body has no chance in time to form a rune array or arcane energy. It will be divided and absorbed by the surrounding forbidden magic stones in an instant. This is also an important reason why mages cannot cast spells smoothly. Of course, for Riz, whose body is also alienated by runes, this is not a big problem. After finding a suitable position and casting the spell of Concealing Breath, Riz approached the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest, but was blocked by the strict guards in the distance. Looking at the sun still hanging high in the sky, Riz turned around and left without hesitation. He who knows teleportation magic is not worried about not being able to explore the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest. All he needs is a little patience. Is anyone there? Chapter 266 Calm Sea. While Riz was secretly planning how to enter the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest, Northless, who had been blackmailed for more than a week, patted his thin cheeks, took weak steps, and walked into an ordinary grocery store. After passing the contact code, Northless slowly walked into the basement behind the store under the surprised and horrified eyes of his juniors and met Edwin, who came with him to carry out the mission. I thought you couldn't forget that woman and wanted to live in Demacia forever. Edwin put down the information in his hand and smiled at the man who was entangled by the rough woman of Demacia. That's a very difficult guy. If I can't keep her steady, she will cause a lot of trouble for our work. Recalling the painful experience of being squeezed like essential oil these days, even Northless couldn't help but be a little afraid. Hilna was really tossed around, but fortunately it was not Northless who was humiliated, and he did not bring humiliation to his master. Nalvia, she is a freak who cannot be described by common sense. Otherwise, with her ability, she would not just be the captain of the magic guarding the prison. It is a waste of her talent for that position. Freak? Since she has already caused an impact and threat to us, why don't we find a way to kill her? You think too simply. It is much easier to keep her stable than to kill her. Now that we have been exposed to her sight, she must have made a backup plan. The risk of forcing her to do something is too great. It is better to see through her heart and let her turn a blind eye to us. After all, she concealed such a big incident for her own selfishness and desires. Rather than saying that she is loyal to Demacia, it is better to say that she is loyal to herself. Picking up the water glass on the table and taking a sip, Northless said in a deep voice, "If possible, I would like to win her over to the Emerald Territory to play a greater role. I can see that she also loves the master. Relying on this, it is not impossible to win her over. Use Hislane to seduce her? I'm afraid she will suck you dry before she decides whether to defect to Demacia." Edwin wanted to relax his senior by teasing him, but he found that Northless became serious instead. "That's enough. She won't force me to stay anymore, and I have a better way to bribe her." "What do you mean?" "It means that she is pregnant, and the father is Hislane." Edwin was confused. Northless's overly bland expression made Edwin want to take out his ordinary brain and take a good look at why he was incompatible with the thoughts of the powerful senior. Before Edwin could say anything, Northless's next sentence made Edwin completely stunned on the spot. Hilna and her both want their children to provide the best personal service to the master and devote themselves to the master. On this point, the three of us have reached a rare agreement. Patting his belly, Northless's face was more smiling. "What we can't do, we can let our descendants complete it." Edwin swallowed a mouthful of saliva with a gulp, trying to make himself clumsy understand what Northless said, and finally understood the meaning. "Well, then, what if the child of Hilna and Nalvia is still a boy? The master will not favor boys, right? Then let Hilna's son grow up and give birth to another one until the child is an excellent and beautiful girl. Defective products are not qualified to approach the master." Northless smiled very comfortably. Combining with the blood of the master and successfully giving birth to healthy offspring is the lifelong pursuit of Hislane and me. Apart from this, we have no other wishes. Until the end, the trembling Edwin did not dare to say anything questioning, and vaguely understood why the four predecessors of the first generation of Night's Edge were so outstanding and so relied on by the master. The road to becoming a freak is long and difficult, and it seems that I have to continue to work hard. The relationship between Demacia and the Emerald Territory inexplicably developed into a weird balance. Demacia treated Isaiah as a distinguished guest with delicious food and drinks, while Isaiah was waiting for the latest order from the Emerald Territory. The Emerald Territory organized 3 legions with a total of 1,000 troops to carry out large-scale military exercises in the west of the Nokmachi Plain, which made the Demacia and the Rhinelanders panic. At the same time, they were waiting for the news of Meredith's return. Helia, who was hiding in the Hilda family novels, who was operating in Erenmont, Isaiah, who was traveling in Demacia, and Nalvia, who was the captain of the guard in the White Tower of the Forbidden Magic, were all paying attention to the reasons behind the turmoil in Demacia. A month passed quickly, and with Meredith's return to the Emerald Territory, the tense atmosphere on the Nokmachi Plain gradually dissipated. At the same time, the military exercises of the Emerald Territory ended perfectly, which made the increasing number of garrisons on the eastern border of Demacia and the trembling Rhinelanders in the west of the Quiet Forest breathe a sigh of relief. Isaiah, who had gained 10 pounds finally gave an explanation to the Emerald Territory and proposed that Demacia and the Emerald Territory open diplomatic consulates to each other. After weighing the pros and cons, Gavindark agreed to the Emerald Territory's proposal and began to organize a diplomatic mission to the Emerald Territory for further discussions. He selected the location of the consulate and gave a low profile so that Isaiah could not find any reason to get angry. The specific matters will be thoroughly implemented in the next year. After completing the task of eating and drinking, Isaiah also began his journey back. In another hidden battlefield, after discussing with Nelvia, Northless also left Demacia. For him, Nelvia was just an accident of Northless, an encounter with Islaena, and his way back was only one place from beginning to end. A few months later, the autumn wind blew away the last ray of summer heat and brought a bit of bleakness. Deliberately taking time out of his busy schedule, Lester stood beside the carriage and quietly looked at the slightly changed female mage. Putting aside his own purpose, in a sense, the woman in front of him almost triggered a full-scale war between Demacia and Naxos 700 years in advance, just like the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the throne of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Although it was only a fuse for a world war, no one would forget the cause of this fuse. The rustling sound of falling leaves echoed in his ears, and soon returned to silence. Lester put aside his messy thoughts and smiled. Compared to before, you seem to be much more relaxed and mature now. Yes, because I have figured out a lot of things and let go of a lot of burdens. Meredith, who rarely took off her old-fashioned robes and put on a black dress, stood in the wind, with the hem of her skirt fluttering gently, just like the woman's mood at the moment. In my previous life, I never seemed to think about how to live a more self-centered life. I just walked along without any direction to move forward. So I want to take this opportunity to use a short journey to think about what I really want, whether it is to pursue black magic, to enjoy peace and tranquility, or to find a reliable home. The female mage moved lightly and smiled sweetly, approaching the man. She opened her arms and took the initiative to give Lester a shallow hug. The man paused, returned the greeting gently, and patted the woman's back. The two people's cheeks were close yet distant, and there was a gap that only the gentle breeze could pass through. Thank you for everything you have done for me, Lester. It's no big deal. The wound on your head has just healed. As the leader of the Black Rose Mage Corps, I was going to arrange more things for you to do, but you are going to run away. This makes me very embarrassed. Maybe when I come back, I will never leave again. They let go of each other, and with Lester's gentlemanly support, Meredith got on the carriage. By the way, I almost forgot to ask you, when you were still in the academy, did Rose look for you on purpose and say anything to you? Hoo-hoo, hulala. A strong wind blew, and the sound of the wind blowing the fallen leaves covered the conversation between the two. The man waved his arms and watched the carriage go away. On the branches, blackbirds opened their empty eyes and flapped their wings. Thanks to the first leader of this book, Zuo New, I won't waste any more words, and I will present 5 more chapters tomorrow. For your recognition, I will update as much as I can. Chapter 267 Forbidden Magic Stone Forest. The Forbidden Land of Demacia. More than 10 days ago, Riz successfully avoided the Demacia soldiers stationed outside through fixed point teleportation, and entered the deserted Forbidden Magic Stone Forest to begin exploring. In the eyes of the Demacians, mages who are not affected by the Forbidden Magic Stone simply do not exist. This is the only reason why Riz successfully sneaked into the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest. The Forbidden Magic Stone Forest is a dead and mutated forest. No birds or animals can be seen here. The environment is extremely depressing. Under the tall white trees, it is easy for humans to lose their sense of direction. Even Riz felt deeply uncomfortable in the Forbidden Magic Stone Forest. For ordinary people, I'm afraid that collecting a few branches on the periphery is enough to do their best. Going too deep into the stone forest may cause some changes in the body, or even suffocate to death under the pressure. Walking among the white trees that were tens or hundreds of meters tall, Riz found that his height might not even reach the height of some tree roots. These tall white trees can be seen within 1,000 miles, like white holy stone pillars that reach the sky. This is also the origin of the word stone forest. Rather than saying it is a forest, it is better to say it is a stone pillar that reaches the sky. There is no doubt that this place has become a well-known wonder in Demacia. What many people regret is that Demacia has never shown its greatness to outsiders. Only Riz knows what these great and ancient thick tree trunks mean. In this land, only the power of runes can make ordinary things undergo such terrible changes, and runes symbolize corruption and destruction, which are terrible things that need to be suppressed. Runes must be properly sealed. Only on this point, he will never compromise. Forbidden Magic Stone Forest. Forbidden magic. I should have come here a long time ago. Sighing, Riz continued to move forward. 19 years ago, when Riz came to Valoran from Zorn, the northern port of Shurima, he planned a route for himself to search for runes. He went north from the Narksan Hills, past the Immortal Bastion to the Dalmor Plains, and then went west along the Iron Mountains to the Freljord Tundra on the Dalmor Plains. He then went north to the Frostgerd Fortress, turned to the coast of the Frozen Sea on the west coast of the Frostgerd Fortress, and then went south along the outline of the continent, and finally crossed the Urus Mountains to Demacia, and then searched the Nokmachi Plains from the Demacia Plains all the way east, until he returned to the Valoran Plains west of the Immortal Bastion. Such a closed loop route is the most time-saving option, because it does not repeat the same route. Even so, Riz spent a full 19 years before arriving in Demacia. This lonely road with no room for turning back lasted for 19 years, which was enough to turn a newborn baby into a mature father. This path was so persistent and determined that the wandering mage had no time to think about other things, such as the mysterious forbidden magic forest in Demacia. For another example, if he went west from the Immortal Bastion and passed through the Valoran Plains, the Nokmachi Plains, and the Demacia Plains, he could directly come to the Forbidden Magic Forest and explore the situation here. It seems that I have to pay attention to more peculiar places in the future. Summarizing the experience and lessons that could not be called failure, Riz stopped and took out a broken rune fragment with a dark red glow from the rune scroll behind him. This fragment had once produced rune resonance when Riz was still on the coast of the Freljord Ice Sea 6 years ago. The approximate location of the resonance was in the south. After taking it out at this moment, the fluctuation of the rune resonance was much smaller, and the direction became the east. Thinking about the abnormal properties of the forbidden magic forest, Riz threw the rune that began to whisper back into the scroll, and took out a cone-shaped runestone emitting a light blue magic light. It has the mutation function of absorbing magic power, so it should be related to this rune that can amplify and absorb arcane energy. Holding the light blue rune tightly, Riz felt the direction of the rune resonance and quickly determined a direction. Quickening his pace, passing through the towering trees, Riz came to a giant tree pit that had been felled. Redetermining his position in his mind, Riz was surprised to find that the position under his feet was exactly the center of the forbidden magic stone forest. The semicircular tree pit was full of brown and yellow dead leaves. Riz soon found that there was an unnatural bulge near the inside of the tree pit. He swept away the fallen leaves on the small stone platform with his palm, and the flat relief engraved on the hard stone wall appeared in front of him. The relief is composed of 3 parts, with a compact layout and exquisite carvings, namely the people on both sides, the twisted tree trunk in the center, and the cone-shaped stone at the top of the twisted tree trunk, close to the sky and emitting light. The human part clearly shows the style of worship and belief. The human kneeling on the ground in front of the trees and the cone-shaped stone is wearing a cloak and robe, holding a scepter, and is obviously the high and mighty ruler. Behind the ruler are beautiful women holding sacrificial objects and warriors holding swords and wearing armor, symbolizing the king's submission to the mysterious belief. The twisted trees in the center are like vines, spiraling upward, and the glowing cone-shaped stone is pushed to the sky like a moon. The stone emits countless rays of light in the sky, and the dense lines make Riz understand what kind of energy the cone-shaped stone has. Obviously, the human kneeling on the relief is not the twisted tree, but the cone-shaped stone on the tree heart, which symbolizes power. Focusing on the relief, and glancing at the cone-shaped blue runestone in his left hand, Riz curled his lips, but sighed deeply. This relief was obviously not made by the Demacians, because the Demacians did not understand the fundamental reason for the birth of the forbidden magic stone forest, and naturally would not worship a piece of glowing broken stone, and carved a relief for the broken stone. It can only be that a local civilization in the past created and carved this relief stone platform. Obviously, the runes worshipped by that civilization did not protect the civilization from continuing to be strong and continuous, but turned the civilization into an unknown historical event, which completely disappeared in the long river of history. In Riz's view, this is not accidental, but the inevitable result of contacting and believing in runes. Any civilization or human who tries to control the runestone will bring great disasters to the world, and there has never been an exception. If it were not for the existence of the immortal stone platform relief, I'm afraid no one would know that 100 years ago, there was a powerful kingdom on the forbidden magic stone forest. Even if the relief in front of him was destroyed, the last trace of this dynasty in this world would be erased, and no one would know that there is a civilization that has disappeared here. Stroking the relief mural, Riz once again felt the fragility and weakness of human civilization in the face of runes. The weakness is that humans cannot use the powerful power of runes, nor can they control the destructive consequences of runes. The weakness is that humans can never refuse such easy to obtain powerful power, and can only compromise and accept it in temptation, and then fall into self-destruction and depravity. For the content of the Forbidden Stone Forest, you can refer to the official CG animation of Riz. Chapter 268 Rune Temple. He wanted to destroy the stone platform with magic to prevent the Dalmatians who went deep into the stone forest from knowing the unknown past and the truth of the forbidden magic forest. He even began to investigate the runes under the stone platform. However, Riz thought that he could not stand such a magic-free environment. For ordinary Dalmatia collectors, it was probably impossible to go deep into the center of the stone forest. What's more, for the Dalmatians who revered the forbidden magic forest, trespassing into the depths of the forbidden area was a capital crime. No wonder there are no guards in the stone forest, and the collectors are only active on the periphery. This may be the reason why you can continue. In the end, Riz gave up the idea of destroying the stone platform, and preserved the last glimmer of the lost civilization. Pressing his right hand on the ground, covered with dead leaves, Riz held the rune in his left hand, and sensed the underground cavity deep underground through arcane energy. There is a huge cavity about 300 meters underground. It may be the remains of a lost civilization and the location of the runes. Standing up, Riz no longer hesitated. The alienated runes on his body began to flash, and the mage directly activated the arcane teleport. The light blue spots slowly dissipated, and Riz disappeared in front of the stone platform, and came directly to the depths of the underground, a rocky cave with an area of several hundred square meters. Several beautiful fluorites emitting strange white light circled around the thick rhizomes and circled upward, dispelling the darkness in the cave. The twisted white forbidden magic stone forest has a complex and huge root system, which surrounds and covers the entire underground cavity with the hard mountain. The strange thing is that there is no lack of oxygen in the cavity, even though there is no passage connecting to the ground. It seems that the roots of the forbidden magic stone forest themselves release oxygen. After walking a few dozen steps, Riz came to the center. On the relatively flat grey stone, 5 white cube tree pillars with cavities appeared in front of him. In the thickest rhizome of the forbidden magic stone forest, Riz sensed a strong resonance of runes. By cutting off the arcane supply, the resonating runes in his hand faded a little. Riz looked at the wonder in front of him with some confusion. Why are there 5 cavities, not 4 or 6? This is definitely not a naturally formed place, but an underground temple deliberately built by the dynasty that cast the stone platform to preserve the rune stones. In other words, this dynasty once obtained 5 runes. If this is true, it is really strange that a dynasty with so many runes did not turn Dalmatia into a broken continent. Gently stroking the original rhizome wrapped in another rune fragment, Riz was extremely sure that it was the runes in the rhizome that led to the birth of the forbidden magic stone forest, which transformed ordinary trees into the forbidden magic stone forest that absorbs and stores magic. The original tree roots born from runes have the effect of imprisoning and blocking the power of runes. Imprisoning runes through runes is a great wisdom that is not possessed by ordinary people. Why have I never heard of such a glorious civilization in the Dalmatia plains? Thinking about it, Riz still placed the blue rune of the same origin as the one in the forbidden magic stone forest on the epidermis of the rhizome. A strange scene appeared. The rhizome that sensed the rune spontaneously stretched out, revealing another rune hidden deeper. The rune in the tree root was also blue-green. Taking a deep breath, Riz put the rune in his hand in. But the two rune fragments merged directly at the moment of contact. Before the powerful rune power could spread, it was completely absorbed and decomposed by the roots of the forbidden magic stone forest into its own nutrients. As Riz pulled his hand back, the roots twisted together again to become a tight hole, locking the rune tightly in the roots. Relieved, looking back at the 5 root cavities behind him again, Riz's heart became more enlightened. Retrieving a finger-sized green circular rune from the rune scroll behind him, Riz, who was trying hard to resist temptation, came to a shield-shaped cavity and carefully placed the rune in. The rune that had escaped from the body's suppression had not had time to do anything before it was suppressed by the tree roots. The flickering green light also disappeared. The rune that entered the tree hole cavity seemed to have turned into an ordinary stone, losing its original powerful ability. Reaching out again, Riz took out the rune again. The rune that left the tree hole cavity restored its previous mysterious light, and even the tempting whispers had a bit more pleading meaning. It seems that my guess is correct. This is the place to store runes. Having come to this conclusion, Riz's face also had a rare smile. In this way, his burden would be much lighter. By fusing and sealing the extra runes here, the rune scroll can free up space and find a temporary home for the newly collected rune fragments. When the rune scroll is about to reach the storage limit, the runes in the scroll can be placed here. There is no need to worry about burying dangerous runes in some deserted place. There shouldn't be any risk if I store runes here. Only arcane mages who have been transformed by runes like me, who are not affected by the forbidden magic forest and know how to teleport, can come here. Ordinary people and ordinary mages will be severely suppressed when they come to the depths of the forbidden magic forest, not to mention discovering this place that is 100 meters deep. I can safely place the runes here. After making a decision, Riz quickly took out the other 2 runes collected in the rune scroll. One is a cone-shaped red rune, and the other is a dark purple rune. Both are only a small piece. The purple rune has been fused once. One fragment came from Master Tiras, and the other fragment was found in a barbarian tribe in the Damo Plain. The green rune that has been placed in the shield-shaped empty slot was found in a village in the Goral Mountains in the northwest of Naxos. The red rune was snatched from a sand bandit organization on the Shurima continent. The blue rune was found in the stone trough of Nelzayag in the Freljord, and has now been fused with the rune in the original tree root. Since killing his master 23 years ago, Riz has only collected so many rune fragments. While thinking, the idea of corruption in his mind became more and more profound. Riz no longer hesitated, and put the dark purple rune in his hand into the empty slot, and then put the red rune in his hand back into the rune scroll. The whispers faded away. Even Riz, who had experienced many battles, sometimes found it difficult to resist the temptation of runes. The reason why he did not put the red rune into the empty slot was that there was another red rune fragment exposed in the east of Demacia. Through the arcane to trigger the resonance of the runes, Riz could quickly lock the location of the red rune and recover the fragments. After finishing the work and confirming that there would be no accidents in this secret location, Riz used the rune engraving on his body surface and teleported out of the underground rune temple again through arcane teleportation, returning to the stone platform in the forbidden magic stone forest. Taking a deep breath, the wandering mage covered his hood again, carried the rune scroll behind him, and embarked on a lonely road of atonement. Finding another fragment that resonates with the red rune is his next goal. Chapter 269 Gentle Wind. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, Lester has entered the 15th year of Runeland. After 2 years of busy work, the man finally had some free time to make a 5-year development plan for Emerald Territory and summarize the recent development status. The first rune converter repaired by Hua's issue is now available. Through the rune converter, operators with certain magical talents can engrave element and runes on magic materials. The only problem is that the existing materials are not compatible with the current magic runes. Therefore, even if the rune array of fire element condensation is engraved on the magic steel shield, it will not reflect the enchantment result of input magic plus enchanted shield equals set shield on fire. In order to make the rune converter work, it is necessary to study new magic symbols with practical effectiveness from scratch. This is an unknown field that has never been explored. Fortunately, there are many Black Rose mages who like to do research in the underground fortress of the Shine Silver Mountains, with Huasishu as a theoretical assistant. Emerald Territory also has the ability to independently develop enchantment runes. At least that's what the Flower Rat assured Lester. Lester, who also has certain attainments in the field of magic, also agreed with the Flower Rat's point of view. Only time can test the actual effect of the talisman converter. 12-year-old Sako was sent to the Red Amber Courtyard by Lester a year ago, starting his own learning journey. He can be regarded as the son of sin born by the victims of Bina Village. Sako has a lot more smiles on his face for finding peers in the same situation as himself. When he grows up a little bit, Lester will send Sako to the Black Rose Mage Academy to find him a suitable teacher. As the best in the Red Amber Courtyard, Hiltalia and Goliath have always been paid attention to by Lester. After explaining the follow-up arrangements for the son of Sintabaza, Lester no longer worries about this matter. After more than a year of hard work by Jesse, the Emerald Territory Arena has become one of the most famous places in Valoran. Every day, tourists or warriors come to the Emerald Territory, waiting for the crazy feast held once a month. The entrance fee and registration fee alone have made the Emerald Territory a fortune, making many lords of the Immortal Fortress particularly jealous. They hurriedly raised funds to build a new arena on the open space outside the Immortal Fortress, which was quite a waste of money. With the support of the Emerald Territory, Naxos gained a local advantage in the war on the Dalmor Plain. Although the highly mobile archers have not been completely solved, the advantages of the armored trolls and Iceborne have been completely offset by Naxos. The names of Alice and Cled began to spread on the Valoran continent. Facing the more elite Naxan troops, the cold-winded War Mother Yelena had to shrink the defense line and give up the northwest fortress of the Pagros Tree Peaks, allowing the Naxans to smoothly advance the front line and put the battlefield outside the Goral Mountains. The training of the Angel Sisters also came to an end. With the power of God in the sword, Mishad and Sinner Sisters have surpassed Lester, who has gone all out in terms of combat power. Even with the power of Elena and the Red Rune, Lester could not resist the violent impact of the power, which made the man realize that his strength was still not up to par in the Runeland, and also strengthened his determination to seek new power. After the Angel Sisters found their own fighting style, Lester, who had nothing to teach, took himself out. The simple power suppression turned the competition into a boring crushing, which was not a good thing for both himself and the Angel Sisters. It would be better to let the two sisters learn from each other and make progress and grow together. Only at night, the man who became tough again could let the two sisters learn something different again. It is worth mentioning that a medium-sized gold vein was found in the mine in the north, which put Lester's coinage plan on the agenda. Under Lester's design, the circulating currency of Emerald Territory is divided into 3 levels: gold, silver and copper, with a ratio of 1:100. Emerald Territory gold coins are 1:1 equivalent to Shurima gold coins. The front of the currency is the mask of the Lord guarded by angel wings, and the back is a reduced version of the outline of the outer city of Emerald Territory. The old blacksmith once suggested that Lester use his appearance as the front pattern, but was rejected by the man for unknown reasons. This made the old blacksmith crystal angry for several days, and also made the old blacksmith's beloved apprentice Steiner work hard for several days. He didn't even know if his teacher deliberately took advantage of his anger to quit. After handing over the coin template and anti-counterfeiting research work to the War Workshop, and handing over the currency issuance and circulation plan to Harold and Margaret, Lester completely became a hands-off boss. When the right time comes, Emerald Territory will put the Emerald Territory currency on the market and gradually replace Shurima gold coins. On this day, Lester disguised his appearance and form again, and came to the newly built Pale Angel Square alone, experiencing the rare tranquility and peace. Sitting on the white stone bench, hiding in the green vines growing around the stone pillar corridor, Lester, who has become a middle-aged man, leaned back on the chair to relax his mind and body, and quietly stared at an angel statue standing around the fountain not far away. It was a stone statue designed and carved by Lester himself. Even with the convenience of magic, it took the man several years of time and energy. The face template of the statue is Elena, the towering torso is based on Cinna, the slender and white legs are based on Rose, and the wings are carved in the style of Mishap. Even if Shen, who believes in the way of balance, is here, I'm afraid he would have to give a thumbs up. To be honest, balancing women's jealousy is much more difficult than balancing the two worlds. The barefoot angel was dressed in a white dress, holding a scale symbolizing justice in her left hand and a sword in her right hand. She looked up at the sky and stood on tiptoe. Her compassion was accompanied by strength and her kindness was unyielding. From a distance, the sculpture was lifelike and exuded a holy temperament. Many people passing by would involuntarily stop what they were doing and show a little respect to the statue. A refreshing summer breeze blew, driving the branches and leaves to make a swish sound, which was refreshing. Lester looked away from the statue and looked at the children running and playing on the marble tiles. In the early morning or evening, there would always be many active Emerald people on the Pale Angel Square, spending their time in a beautiful and holy environment. Naturally, there would be the laughter of cute children. If you put aside the clothes with relatively backward styles and designs, the scene in front of you would not be much different from the modern square in the previous life. Everything in front of you is so beautiful, but such beauty is always short-lived, just like the fleeting years of a girl. In his previous life, whenever Lester was tired, he would change his appearance and use the instrument in his hand to vent his emotions in a place with an audience. He wanted to make a harmonica, but had to give up because of the lack of key materials. In the end, Lester chose the simple and easy to make Nangxiao. The so-called Nangxiao has 10 meshes and 9 sections, a total length of 1 foot and 8, so it is also called Nangxiao and shakuhachi. Speaking of which, shakuhachi is also a favorite instrument of a certain torso from Ionia. The rare sentimental emotion is mixed with a longing for Elena. Lester took the Nangxiao carved by himself from his waist, held it gently in his hand, and put his lips on it. Attracted by the deep and strange melody, pedestrians on the Pale Angel Square stopped one after another and were immersed in the sudden melodiousness in a daze. The lonely flute sound accompanied by the wind under the wings of the Pale Angel blew a crowd of people's hearts. When the flute sound fell, the player had gone away. If you think this book is okay, please vote for it or give it a reward. Oh. Chapter 270 Come and Refuse to Leave. It was not yet dawn. Lester opened his eyes and saw Evelyn. Shh. He made a silent gesture to Evelyn, who nodded obediently and slowly stepped back to make room for the man to sit up. The Angel sisters on both sides of the big bed were still in sweet dreams. Obviously they were tossed around a lot. Lester got out of bed, covered Miss Howe and Hina with quilts, and then took Evelyn out of the bedroom. When they came to the first floor, Evelyn threw herself directly on the man and did not reject the enthusiastic shadow demon. Lester successfully replenished Evelyn's energy. When the dust settled, Lester lazily leaned on the sofa, and Evelyn turned into a shadow cat, happily lying on the man's legs, slowly licking and stroking her palm. Unlike Mongolian worms, cats are Evelyn's favorite non-human form, because since she became a cat, the man has never taken the initiative to drive her away when no one came. Evelyn, you still can't speak human language. I've tried so hard to raise you, but you can't even do such a simple thing. Hoo. Hearing what Lester said, the shadow cat's bright golden vertical pupils were a little disappointed. It also wanted to make a human sound, but every time it tried to speak with its mouth, it made a hoo sound. Come, speak with me, Master Hoo. What a stupid cat. After being hit on the head by Lester, the cat felt a little wronged, showing its weakness, pity, and helplessness to the fullest. If it hadn't remembered how much this cat who could turn into a human could eat, Lester would have almost believed it. Picking up the enchantment bag from the table, Lester took out a piece of high quality soul pyroxene from it and threw it into the air. Hoo. The cat jumped up, its head swelled instantly, and it opened its bloody mouth to swallow the beautiful colorful soul pyroxene into its mouth, and then fell back on the man's legs and lay down, revealing a comfortable expression. In Alina's words, you are not good at anything, but eating is the most important thing. I have ruined you. Tell me, what use are you to me besides torturing me? Hoo holding the cat's front legs with both hands and swinging them back and forth. The shadow cat was like a piece of cloth swaying in the wind and rain, but the man knew that this demon who had eaten hundreds of souls enjoyed it. Evelyn was one of the few lazy people who ate white rice all day long beside Lester and did nothing practical. If he hadn't known that Evelyn was worth investing in, the man would have made Evelyn into devil scrambled eggs long ago. After all, everything can be scrambled eggs. As a Chinese-Russian hybrid, Lester naturally had the position to say so. Knock, knock, master, there is important information. The wooden door was knocked, and the man patted her head. Evelyn jumped and disappeared in the man's shadow. After getting dressed, Lester opened the door. Outside the door was Morris, the killer leader who should be in charge of the underground headquarters of the Nightblade. Generally speaking, if there is any important intelligence, Morris will send others to report the situation. There is only one situation where he will come in person. That is, Lester has personally told Morris the most important things. Go ahead. 2 days ago, our people in Jantel found a purple-skinned man wearing a hooded robe and carrying a large leather bag. After a brief investigation, the purple-skinned man came from Erenmont and was moving eastward, that is, towards the direction of the Emerald Territory. This purple-skinned man is very similar to the Riz mage you told me about. Lester stroked his chin with a serious face. In order to avoid an uneasy encounter, he told Morris about Riz's appearance and behavior style. After killing the Rat King, Morris then sorted out and shared Riz's information with other Nightblade assassins. All Nightblade assassins on the move have an important task, which is to report to the headquarters as soon as possible after discovering Riz without contacting, losing, or harboring any malicious intent, and record and track Riz's whereabouts. Lester never underestimated the rune mage Riz, who was considered one of the protagonists in the rune realm, and naturally would not use any extreme means to solve the problem. In Lester's view, non-contact was the most perfect solution, which required having his own intelligence network, and the Night's Edge could just meet this need. He naturally would not doubt the judgment of the Night's Edge killer, but Riz's journey east still made him a little concerned, and he couldn't help but wonder if the runes on his body had been sensed by Riz. Then Lester thought of the route guidance he had received before his decisive battle with the Rat King in the underground of the Silver Mountains, after Uzel lost his magic sense. At this moment, if it was not the guidance of fate, but the runes and the body attracted each other, it would make sense. Under the premise that he will not be discovered, keep a close eye on Riz's whereabouts, and report to me as soon as possible if there is any new movement. Understood. Morris had left, but Lester was still standing at the door, frowning. Riz's coming to the Emerald Territory was not a trivial matter. I absolutely cannot meet Riz. With my current strength, I'm not even as good as Miss Haddon Sinner. The possibility of defeating Riz is almost zero. Riz can find me quickly through rune positioning. It is almost impossible to persuade Riz to give up retrieving the runes. There is no need for me to take such a risk. Therefore, I must avoid him and mislead him so that he cannot determine my position for a long time. It is best to leave Valoran directly. After closing the door, Lester quickly came to the studio on the 3rd floor and took out the map scroll placed in the desk drawer. This is the game background map that Lester reproduced according to his memory in his previous life. He has never shown it to others. In general, the background map of the game is still very different from the terrain and regions of this era. Even the shapes of some continental plates are somewhat different. Therefore, marching and fighting still rely on the latest topographic maps, and the game map can only be used for reference. Spreading the map on the table, the general outline of the runeland appears on the scroll in proportion with a very small error. Although I don't remember the exact cities or towns on the map, the positioning of major forces and the control of mountains and rivers are extremely accurate. Skipping the Shurima continent, sweeping across the Shadow Isles, leaving aside the Serpent Archipelago, Lester soon set his sights on the Valoran continent, the first lands across the vast Sea of Watchers. In the first lands, Ionia, famous for its regional provincial system, has the most harmonious natural relationship in Runeterra. The abundant magical environment and peculiar humanities have given rise to many powerful orphans and freaks in Ionia, as well as the fusion of humans and the spiritual realm, and the legend of the humanoid beast Vastaerzeri. For now, the First Lands is the most suitable place to escape. P.S. The protagonist's journey to Ionia is about to begin. Please read and support. By the way, who still remembers Lenz's Law? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Spring Sunshine. As an orphan archipelago, Ionia is an absolute retirement home. Separated from Valoran by the Sea of Watchers, Ionia is obviously a good place to stay away from the bald purple potato spirit. It took several years to trick the bald man who took the boat to Ionia and then leave Ionia and return to Valoran. The cross-continental tracking means absolute failure. The bald man has been tossing around for several years. Although he felt a little sorry for the World Guardian Riz, Lester had no choice. In this matter, both of them were victims and had no choice. At most, after he was sure of immortality, he would give Riz a warm hug, as long as Riz didn't blast himself with arcane energy. Go to Ionia, find a way to help Shia complete her transformation, and then try to find the Ionian soul, Karma, to see if Margaret and the others can retain their previous memories through reincarnation. If possible, go find Ivan to see if it can extend the short life of humans. After thinking about the course of action for the next period of time, Lester, who felt empty in his heart, suddenly thought of a woman who deliberately estranged him. Since returning from afar, Rose has become very busy, and the frequency of their meetings has been reduced to once every few months. Lester can't help but suspect that LeBlanc is plotting something behind the scenes. Although the trust and sweetness between the two have already had an unbridgeable gap after Meredith and the dragon disaster incident, Lester still doesn't want to further deteriorate their relationship. As the first woman and big backer of Runeland, LeBlanc always has a special place in the man's heart. Even if they can't continue to be intimate, the man doesn't want to become a real enemy with LeBlanc. Let's have a good talk with Rose when we pass by the Immortal Bastion. After rolling up the map again, Lester took out a pen and paper and began to arrange his work after he left. In the free trade market in Jandal, Demacia, there were crowds of people, and it was a lively scene. Come and take a look. A Shurima ancient ruins pottery jar only costs 10 Shurima copper coins. They are all good treasures just excavated from the ancient tombs of Shurima, and can be used to open the real Shurima royal gems. What if your jar is empty? Definitely not empty. Give me one. The shouting of the brown-haired pot-selling man with a strong accent of the Shurima desert gave people a very credible feeling. Although he didn't want to admit it, Riz still stopped and involuntarily approached the stall, becoming an ordinary spectator in the crowd. He found that his hands were a little itchy. After walking too much boring journey, his hurried footsteps would occasionally stop for some interesting things, such as giving someone a small punishment. Sorry little girl, are you okay? Where are your mom and dad? Being squeezed by the crowd, Riz accidentally bumped into a little girl with a bob haircut. Uncle, I'm fine. Looking at the scary purple blue skin under the cloth covering her face, the little girl in plain linen clothes turned away with horror, covering her mouth. Sighing, watching the little girl leave, Riz set his eyes on the jar again. He had been to the Shurima continent and had naturally seen real Shurima burial jars. He could tell at a glance that the pattern of the sealed burial jar was wrong, but he didn't open it. Being able to burn the jar to look like the real thing, these people who deliberately faked it are also qualified to make some money, but they still have to be punished. Bang! The small hammer hit the jar, cracked it, and a piece of white bone fell out. Damn it, where is the gem? I said there is definitely no empty space, and I didn't say there is definitely a gem. Why don't you open another one? Just as the jar holder pretended to hesitate, Riz raised his hand and said loudly, "Can I open one?" The opening performance was interrupted before it was over. The jar vendor was a little uncomfortable, but he didn't dare to reveal anything. Big brother, whether I can sell something is not up to me. Which jar do you want? Let me pick it for you. Throwing out 11 Shurima copper coins, Riz, wrapped in a face cloth, smiled in front of everyone's frightened faces. No, I'll pick it myself. Next to your feet, the third one from the left to the right. This one? Okay. No, not this one. That one. The one on your left hand. Is that this one? Here. Forget it, you can't take it, right? I'll take it myself. With the jar vendor's forced smile, Riz picked up the jar with the gem and placed it at his feet. This one is right. You have a good eye. Maybe this is a burial jar with treasures. The jar vendor took a deep breath and let his smile become natural again. When doing business, you will always encounter such situations, and he is not someone who can't afford to lose. With a little more appreciation for the jar vendor who dared to do what he did, Riz picked up a small hammer and, in full view of the crowd, hit the neck of the jar with the hammer in his hand. With a clang, the jar cracked. A deep purple light refracted from the jar fragments, and the crowd suddenly became agitated and began to get restless. Congratulations, this should be a relatively rare Shuri'm around crystal purple agate, which is the most common burial object for the descendants of the Shuri'm royal family. You are really a person favored by the goddess of luck. Maybe I should keep this batch of jars and open them myself. Selling them for 10 copper coins is really a big loss. The words of the jar vendor made the crowd watching boil. Give me one. I want to open the jar. Wait. I'll go home to get the money. Picking up the round crystal purple agate, Riz squeezed out of the crowd and walked towards the end of the sparse street. Uncle, yes, I'm sorry. I forgot what my mother taught me. I shouldn't judge people by appearance. Surprisingly, the simple little girl who had just escaped from him ran over quickly and lowered her head with an apologetic look. Uncle, please forgive me. After a pause, Ruse squatted down, put his hand on the little girl's head, and gently touched it. What a polite and good child. Uncle doesn't blame you, but Uncle just scared you. I should give you some compensation. After observing the surroundings and making sure that no one was watching him, Ruse put the purple agate he had just obtained into the little girl's hand. In the little girl's surprised expression, Ruse clenched the little hand and gently held it in his hand. This is a little secret between us. Remember to go back and give it to mom. Let's go, little girl. It's dangerous to be alone outside. I'll take you home. Soon Ruse followed the little girl to the door of a relatively simple and dilapidated small house, pushed open the simple wooden fence door, and the girl ran into the house happily, telling her mother who was cooking about her adventure, and showed the purple agate in her hand. The woman's face was startled, and she hurriedly pulled her daughter to the door to return the purple agate, but there was no one there. Looking at the direction where is left, Edwin, dressed as a civilian, walked in the sun and shook his body with a smile on his face. He seemed to understand why he had not received the order to kill. Ahahaha, here comes the purple potato. Chapter 272 Warm Harbor. The preparations for the long journey were completed quickly. Lester said goodbye to the people around him secretly. After thinking for a long time, he decided to leave the magic steel mask that symbolized the authority of the Lord. When necessary, GC, who was about the same size as Lester, could disguise herself as the Lord of the Emerald Territory. As a man's bedmate for more than 10 years, it was not difficult for her to imitate the man's behavior. In addition, with the support of the Angel Sisters, Margaret and Absol, even if someone guessed it was fake, they would not have any right to question it. As for the magic steel mask that can suppress personal aura, for Lester, its effect has begun to decrease. In the past 10 years, Elena, who suppressed the red rune fragments, has not grown up. Although it is still impossible to have a detailed conversation, Lester can communicate with Elena through the mind to let her take back the life energy that is dissipated all the time. Without the bonus of the charm aura from the life energy, Lester will hardly encounter such an outrageous thing as being stared at by the Estrus dragon bird again with his outstanding appearance. Even if it comes to looks, few people lose their minds because of a charming face, so they won't get into all kinds of trouble simply because of charm. When Riz just left the border of Demacia, Lester, riding on Shur, also left the Emerald Territory and flew eastward to the Immortal Bastion. After landing outside the Immortal Bastion, Lester settled Shur on the mountain, then hired a carriage and entered the magnificent and solemn military fortress. Relying on the special pass of Narxus, the carriage went directly to Blackthorn Rose Street, and Lester found the mage stationed at the entrance of the street. "I'm Lester. Excuse me, is Ms. Rose at home?" She first looked at the man with a vigilant look, until she saw the man's unconcealed face. Combined with the rumors about Ms. Rose, the female mage suddenly realized. You are the wizard Lester who invented the amplification array, right? I almost didn't recognize you without your mask. Ms. Rose is at home. Please come in. Thank you. After thanking him, the man gradually approached the familiar mansion. Just like 15 years ago, Rose's house was still the tallest and largest, as if she was afraid that others would not know her lofty status. Standing in front of the cart gate, for Lester, the house in front of him was half of his home. He stretched out his hand and pulled the door, and Rose did not lock the door as usual. After closing the door and locking it, Lester slowed down and looked at the unchanging layout around him and couldn't help but miss it. Whether it was the magic stove or the dining table, there were traces of intimacy between the two. Lester walked up the stairs to the second floor and pushed open the half-closed door. A woman in pajamas with long smooth black hair was sitting on the bed, with her hands behind her back, looking at the man with curved eyebrows. Some things have changed, but some things have not changed. Let LeBlanc be LeBlanc, and Rose be Rose. A moment of hesitation made the man more enlightened. Stinky man, you finally know to come to me on your own initiative. I thought you had forgotten your old love when you had a new love. Facing Rose's teasing, Lester sat on the bed without saying a word, took the woman's hand, looked into the woman's charming eyes, and said softly, I'm sorry, even if I'm very busy, I should have come to you. I'm wrong. Rose was stunned. It was rare that she didn't notice a trace of hypocrisy on the man's face. It was just like a real emotion from the heart. The woman instantly felt aggrieved as a wife being ignored by her husband. If this idea was put in normal times, LeBlanc would hold her stomach and laugh for 3 days, but at this moment she found that she couldn't laugh at all because she had always treated emotions as a drama. Originally thinking of ending the special relationship between Rose and Lester as soon as possible, at this moment Rose felt a little reluctant again, and her eyes couldn't help but redden. The aggrieved woman tilted her head and pulled her hand away from the man's palm. You have mishandled her anyway, and I'm nothing to you. You don't have to apologize to me. The man ignored the woman's struggle and opened his arms to gently embrace her. After a symbolic struggle, Rose, who was powerless, decided to let nature take its course. This body could never reject the man in front of it, which had become a huge flaw. A flaw that must be erased. You have long been an indispensable part of my life. The woman bowed her head silently on the man's chest, and the man's low voice continued to come. When I was most confused and helpless, you gave me a home and made me feel like a reborn person. You are not someone to me. You are a home that makes me feel at ease, and you are the bond that I cannot give up the most. Rose's body trembled. She recalled the first meeting 15 years ago. When the man humorously tripped Dort to the ground like a stupid bear, she became interested in the man who spoke an unknown language. Although she only wanted to dig out the secrets of the ancient people, she fell into it inexplicably and turned a house of one person into a home of two people. Before the man left home and shone brightly in the world, what she liked most was to stay with the man at home. At that time, Rose was the real Rose. Cooking together, putting rice on each other's faces and laughing. Cleaning together, using wind magic to cover the man's face with dust, turning the man who was as black as the bottom of the pot into the bottom of the pot, studying together, speaking clumsy and funny spoken language, using the most lame gestures to express their emotions, sleeping together, letting each other's warmth become a harbor on cold nights. For a period of time, the arms of a man are the place where women like to rely on the most. Day and night, bit by bit, inadvertently, it passed away suddenly. The flowers watered with countless efforts are as fragile as ice flowers, which break at the touch. The false and sincere emotions, I don't know when, have changed. Rose is not Rose after all. Rose is the pale witch, LeBlanc. An ancient warlock who will do anything to achieve her goal. Closing her blurry eyes, the woman's tears are like pearls, but her mouth is full of smiles. That is to say, if I die one day, you will cry for me? Nodding, Lester wiped the tears from Rose's eyes with his fingertips. I will cry. I will be sad for a long time, until I completely forget you. Forget who taught me Narxon. Forget the home on Blackthorn Rose Street. Forget that there is a person who accepted the gift I gave. If you can't forget, won't you be sad forever? Since you don't want me to be sad, why don't you give me a reason not to be sad? After a pause, Rose smiled. in this world, except for the gods, who can truly control their own life and death. Does anyone support Lester and Rose as a pair? Chapter 273 Preparation for Sailing. The Immortal Bastion has its own large port, located in the underground river east of the fortress. Take a cargo ship along the Black Iron River all the way east, passing the southern foot of the Pagras Tree Peaks, and you can reach the Three-Leaf Port near the Sea of Watchers. Because the Zorn port in Shurima is the closest to Valoran, it can almost be used as a springboard for crossing the continent. Therefore, the sea route between Shurima and Valoran will not go to the eastern port of the Immortal Bastion. Therefore, the Three-Leaf Port on the coast of the Sea of Watchers has become an important port connecting Valoran and the First Land. It is not realistic to ride Shia directly across the Sea of Watchers to Ionia. The long cross-sea flight will only make Shia exhausted and sink into the sea forever. It is not difficult to take a boat step by step, arrive at the northern island of Grand Barrier, Palace Island, along the southeast coast of Valoran, and then transfer to other cross-continental transport ships to the east to Ionia. The difficulty lies in how to let Shia follow the ship smoothly and go to Ionia together. Because the merchant ships belonging to the Emerald Territory are only shallow sea ships, they generally only circulate between Groft Port and Zorn Port between Valoran and Shurima. Therefore, although Shia can take the ship of the Emerald Territory, it cannot smoothly cross the ocean and reach Ionia. Obviously, no sane captain would accept that his beloved wife was possessed by a fierce and tall mutant dragon bird. They would rather their wives be tormented by the first mate and the boatswain every day than let their wives suffer any harm. After all, the first mate and the boatswain still know how to cherish the hull, but the beasts don't know. If a claw breaks the sail and knocks down the mast, there will be no place to cry. The ship is life for the captain, not to mention the two-masted or three-masted sailing ship used for cross-sea sailing. Any mistake in the deep sea may cause hundreds of lives to be buried in the sea. Therefore, it is impossible for the Dragon Bad to board the ship, or even just to rest. Kylan is such a determined captain. Even if he is employed by Noxus, he is unwilling to let a beast that is easy to get out of control take a foot on his ship. This is not a matter of money, but a personal principle. Fortunately, Lester quickly used his superpowers to convince this determined old man. You should know that, as long as I'm not crazy, I will never allow such a beast to land on the ship. Your promise cannot make me believe that the beast will not go crazy when facing the deep waves. I will take care of your ship, including all your crew members and cargo. If you arrive at the destination smoothly, you can get gold coins of equal value. Even if you fail, I will take my Dragon Bad to pick you up and build a new fleet for you. It was just a simple sentence, and Keelan found that he could no longer see the blue scenery on the other side of the sea, as if something terrible had blocked his eyes, and there was a golden light in front of him. It turns out that the Lord of the Emerald Territory is so tall and handsome, as dazzling as the sun, and as tolerant as the sea. My lord, the value of the ship, including all the cargo and crew members, is a total of 13,912 Shurima gold coins. Whether you succeed or not, I will give you 13,912 Shurima gold coins. In the event of failure, I will protect your life. On top of the 13,912 Shurima gold coins, I will give you another 15,000 gold coins to build a new fleet. How about it? Do you still have difficulties? Your will is my mission, my lord. From now on, my life belongs to you. Lester said seriously, waving at the captain who was moved by him. Leave the goods you bring to Ionia this time in the port warehouse and sell them next time. Replace the cabin with enough livestock and fodder. In addition to fish, my dragon birds also need to eat land creatures, such as cattle and sheep. Prepare more fresh water, and remember to bring more oranges. I think half a month should be enough for you to prepare. In addition, lay thick hardwood boards on the deck of the ship. My dragon birds will rest on the deck. Sir, what about the sailing fee? When you are ready, give me the conversion list, and the gold coins you deserve will naturally come into your hands. I hate fraud and people who like to talk nonsense the most. I hope you can understand this. At Lester's straight to the point, Kylan's smile froze, and instantly replaced it with a more sincere smile. Of course, I may deceive anyone, but I will never deceive the Lord of Demonface. who on the Valoran continent doesn't know that you have a beautiful and powerful dragon bird? Please rest assured that, whether it is me or my crew, we will keep what we see to ourselves, and no one will discover your whereabouts. As long as you can prevent your dragon bird from destroying any facilities on the ship, I promise to send you safely to Ionia. I'm not the Lord of Demonface, and you have never seen any Lord of Demonface. Just call me Nicholas. After a pause, the old captain smiled again. Okay, Lord Nicholas. On a summer morning, the Emerald Territory welcomed a dusty traveler, who was Riz, who had just traveled east from Demacia. Unlike Riz's previous memories, the dilapidated village on the Nokmachi Plains has become a beautiful town in just over a decade, and even the main road is paved with hard and clean stone slabs, which surprised Riz. Along the way, Riz thought he had seen quite a few human settlements. Even in the powerful and orderly Demacia, it was rare to see such convenient roads. At most, they were gravel paths. It was not that the Demacians did not want to build roads, but few people could realize the importance of road construction. Those in power were often deterred by the high construction and maintenance costs, but they did not see that such roads would become solid blood vessels for the flow of materials and personnel, and would also become a proof of the existence of the glory and strength of forces and civilizations, whether in peacetime or wartime. Stop. Who are you? Riz was stopped by the sentry in the sentry tower, and raised his hands. I have no ill intentions, I'm just a traveler. Riz's calm voice and non-threatening behavior made the two soldiers of the Shadow Crossbowmen relax a little, and his tone became much softer. In order to prevent dangerous guys from entering the territory, we must record some of your information. It is a duty, please understand. Of course, I'm willing to cooperate. Where are you from? Where are you going? What is your purpose in coming to the Emerald Territory, and why is your skin purple blue? Something went wrong when I was practicing arcane magic, so I became like this. The unshaven Riz continued to explain his origins. My name is Riz, I'm a wandering mage. I came from Demacia, and I want to live in the Emerald Territory for a while and find something to do. After all, I have heard about the wealth and prosperity of the Emerald Territory for a long time, and I think someone should be willing to pay some money to hire a mage to do something. After a simple search of the body, in addition to a dozen gold coins and a handful of scattered silver and copper coins, only the large scroll in the leather bag was worth paying attention to. Although he was still a little suspicious of Riz, the sentinel did not intend to embarrass Riz, and quickly returned the large scroll to Riz. You can enter the city now. We will report your entry information. Remember to go to the government hall to complete the registration within 3 days. After that, you can obtain a legal identity to move freely in the Emerald Territory. If you fail to do so within 3 days, the Emerald Territory will regard you as a dangerous person and launch an arrest operation against you. Not only will you pay a large fine, but the Emerald Territory will also refuse your subsequent entry requests. So try not to postpone the registration, as it will be very troublesome. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. It is a duty to maintain the law and order and peace of the Emerald Territory. After officially entering the Emerald Territory, looking at the tall stone buildings that are not inferior to Demacia, Riz's curiosity was seduced, but before satisfying his curiosity, he had more important things to do. Who would refuse the power of money? Chapter 274 Legendary Figure. The Summer was an ordinary commercial 3-masted sailing ship. Unlike the 3-masted warships of the late age of exploration, the Summer was not equipped with any artillery. Even if it encountered some sea raiders or pirates, both sides only used cold weapons to engage in boarding battles, using brave warriors and swords in their hands to compete for the ownership of ships and goods. At this moment, Runeland has not yet begun to truly use gunpowder and explore its potential. The fastest growing Demacia and Noxus have the most basic black gunpowder formula, but because it is too troublesome and unstable, it has never been officially put into military use. At most, some are deployed for blasting mountains and mining. Even so, there are inevitable collapse accidents caused by excessive use of drugs. Compared with troublesome and uncontrollable gunpowder, the Mage's Fireball is more popular, and it will not explode inexplicably and cause a mess. As for transforming gunpowder into bombs, making rifled guns or ship cannons and other war tools, Runeland has not yet had advanced ideas in this regard. In a sense, the existence of magic has seriously curbed the progress of science and war technology. On the Sumeria, there are 73 crew members in total, and a total of 208 people can be accommodated. At Lester's request, the captain gave the warbands outside the crew a long vacation. Compared with the warband members wielding swords, Captain Keelan still trusts the fighting power of a dragon bird and a wizard lord more, especially after witnessing a wizard punching more than 20 warband warriors holding weapons and looking dissatisfied. When you go, you will be protected by the lord, and when you return, you can spend money to recruit warbands from Ionia to protect the ship, which can save a lot of money. The rest of the crew had no objection to the captain's decision, but there were still some crew members who complained about the dragon bird coming on board. Fortunately, the captain soon used real money to shut up their mouths. Those crew members also understood that, if they didn't shut up, they would probably be stuffed with knives next time. After dealing with the crew, preparing enough food and fresh water, as well as several large boxes of oranges, the summer officially set off, leaving Sanai Port and heading southeast. When they were far away from the port, Lester used the magic beacon to summon Zaya, who had been waiting for a long time, and let Zaya land perfectly on the empty reinforced deck, fold her wings, and lie down. The waterline suddenly deepened, but it was not a big deal. Try not to hit those things or others as much as possible, otherwise it will be very troublesome. Pointing to the mast and sail, Lester explained important matters to Zaya. You can come down to rest at any time, fly whenever you want, and catch fish for yourself when you are hungry, but you must follow me closely, and don't fly too far. Woo 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 woo. The silver-winged dragon bird opened its eyes wide, nodded obediently, carefully coiled its tail into a mosquito coil shape, and retracted it to its side, rubbing the man's right hand with its cheek. Lester touched Zaya's face and felt relieved. After more than 10 years of getting along, Zaya already had the thinking ability of a 10-year-old child, and could understand most of the Narxan language. The helmsman looked at the man who was training the dragon in shock, and almost forgot his duty. Fortunately, he turned the rudder back in time, so that the ship did not deviate from the wind direction. Surprised, right? I was also surprised. I didn't expect to witness this scene with my own eyes. The one who spoke was the captain's confidant, the first mate named Cork, who had a muscular body, knew a set of lost swordsmanship, and was also the most powerful man on the crew. Normal people would be scared to the point of peeing their pants just by seeing a dragon bird, but Lord Demonface can keep a dragon bird as a pet. He can do things that others can't do. This is what a real man does. I seem to have heard that Lord Emerald Territory did it by removing his hand from the rudder again, and carefully taking a look at the Lord, who was intimate with the dragon bird. The helmsman Ricardo poked the ring on his left hand with his right index finger and said meaningfully, "The dragon bird conquered in this way. How should I put it? It's a bit disgusting. Anyway, I can't do it. Let's not talk about whether it's true or not. Can you?" To Ricardo's surprise, the first mate asked directly, "Can you do it? Conquer the dragon bird with your own body?" I think I shouldn't be able to do it." "Then what qualifications do you have to judge how others conquer the dragon bird?" The first mate kicked Ricardo's butt and said seriously, "When you can do it, you are qualified to judge and say whether you are willing or not. You don't even have the most basic respect for the strong. Ricardo, you will suffer a great loss sooner or later. Keep your udder." Oh. Knowing that Cork was right, Ricardo rubbed his butt and said nothing more. He was indeed a little jealous, so he deliberately found some reasons to make himself not too jealous to explain that taming dragon birds was meaningless. If he could tame dragon birds with his body, why would he be a helmsman? He would have become a dragon bad knight long ago. What is the point of him conquering one by one and offering his body? What are you talking about? Captain Keelan, who had completed the logbook, came to the deck. "Captain, I didn't say anything. I just admire Lord Lester's ability." Cork's words resonated with the captain. "You are right. Such people have never been mortals. They have been writing their own legends all their lives." Staring at the dragon birds taking off from the deck, Keelan's wrinkled face was filled with memories. I was also fortunate enough to meet a legendary figure and personally sent her to Fukumitsu Island. Fukumitsu Island? Isn't it shrouded in an evil man-eating black fog? How could there be living people there? Facing Kirk's doubts, the captain explained patiently. I have never told you about this experience. This time, seeing the Lord Demon face, it was as if I had returned to that morning 40 years ago. Let me tell you about it. Don't tell it everywhere. At that time, I was just a little sailor, following an old captain with rich sailing experience, to travel between Bilgewater Bay and Shurima, doing business with the small country in the middle. 40 years ago, the Blessed Isles were still a very beautiful and mysterious place. Before that, I had no chance to go to the island and see the beautiful scenes. At that time, we went all the way south from Bilgewater Bay to an island on the east side of Shurima, where there was an independent kingdom called Kamavia. The strange thing is that Kamavia, which used to have an open coastline, blocked the coastline with soldiers after we arrived, making it impossible for us to land and get supplies. Until a female general in iron armor and holding a spear came to the ship. Her name was Callista. She took the initiative to explain everything to us. It turned out that the eldest prince died unexpectedly, and the second prince inherited the throne. The second prince of the royal family, who had no intention of governing the country, ordered the border to be blocked because his beloved queen died in an assassination. The mad new king blocked his country and sent soldiers of the Iron Corps to search for clues related to the assassin. There is no doubt that such a stupid act of venting is an absolute disaster for both outsiders and the people of Kamavia. The story of the Clown King is like the accident of the Clown King. Chapter 275 Old Stories. We happened to be docked on the coastline not far from Kamavia, and General Callista asked us to take her to the Blessed Island. In return, we can get supplies in Kamavia for free, and we can get Kamavia's friendship and gifts after returning. The silver-winged dragon bird caught a big fish, drawing a beautiful waterline in the clear sea and sky, and the captain's eyes were a little blurred. The captain was moved by her sincerity and did not want to cause trouble. He finally agreed to her request. Of course, this was also related to the fact that she was the daughter of the eldest prince. To be honest, in my opinion, she is not a beautiful woman. Her eyes are not as big as those of Ionian women, and her lips are not as sexy as those of Narxan women. She is a little short and wears ugly and heavy armor, but her body is very agile and strong, and her will is very firm. What she says always makes people feel trustworthy. She is willing to trust others, and is willing to be trusted by others. Callista is a very special and charismatic female general. Then you went to the Blessed Isles? I heard that before the Black Fog incident on the Blessed Isles, there was a white fog blocking it, and it was impossible to get in. Cork was obviously well informed. Only the helmsman Ricardo kept his ears perked up to increase his knowledge and bragging capital, and never interrupted. At some point, Lester also came over and stood aside. Sir, do you need me to do anything for you? No problem, just continue. I'm also interested in your story. With a legendary listener beside him, the captain's vanity was greatly satisfied. He took the pipe from his waist and put it in his mouth. The attentive first mate lit it with a match and he took a deep breath. After replenishing the supplies, we began an unprecedented voyage, starting from the island of Kamavia and heading east. The whole process was long and difficult. It took us more than 3 months to reach the Blessed Island in the deep sea. In the words of the old captain, few people would set foot on this route unless there was a Blessed Island wizard who could dispel the white fog on the ship to lead the way, so as to avoid the reefs and undercurrents and arrive safely. Obviously, we had nothing but the determination to never back down. On the 79th day, we arrived at the outskirts of Blessed Island before winter. It is shrouded in thick white fog all year round. In the white fog, you can't see anything except your own fingers. The probability of hitting reefs and mountains increases greatly. The threat of shipwreck and death hangs over everyone. After wasting a week in vain, many people began to retreat and wanted to return immediately to leave the weird Blessed Island. Slowly exhaling a smoke ring, Keelan's voice became a little heavy. At that critical moment, even the old captain became unsteady. Even I could see the anxiety under the old captain's calmness until General Callista stood up. She said that, if we retreated at this point, then more than 3 months of efforts would be wasted, and the food and fresh water for the return trip would be in an extremely tight state. Everyone would lose the precious opportunity to board Fuguang Island. She also expressed her own speculation, indicating that now is the time to go through the test. As long as we have enough determination and sincerity, we can sail out of the white fog and step onto Fuguang Island. After being inspired by General Callista, we were full of determination again, and continued to sail into the depths of the white fog. As if to verify her words, we left the range of the white fog before the evening of the next day. We came to the coast of Fuguang Island, got off the boat with the plank, and were entertained by the enthusiastic people of Fuguang Island. Then we realized that the white fog was a sacred thing created to isolate bad people with ulterior motives. Because there is the water of life on Fuguang Island, the water of life can cure any disease of a person, and even long-term drinking can prolong life. This is the greatest temptation for humans whose lifespan is no more than 100 years, enough to bring about a huge disaster. Therefore, everyone who lands on the island will be subject to the character test of Fuguang Island. Only kind-hearted people with good intentions, or those recognized by the master, can leave the white fog and set foot on Fuguang Island. Under the premise of keeping the secret, they can accept the blessing of Fuguang Island. So did you all drink the water of life? What does the water of life look like? Kirk was not surprised to ask such a question, and Kanan nodded. Everyone who lands on the island can get a sip of the water of life. The water of life itself is colorless and clear, but there is a faint holy white light that will dissipate on the water surface. The white light is called the source of vitality by the Helia people, so the water of life is also called the dew of morning light by the Helia people. Although we didn't see the fountain of life deep in the blessed light island in the end, each of us drank a sip, and the hidden diseases brought to our bodies by years of sailing and fighting were instantly cured. My knees no longer have gout, and the scars on my face have disappeared. Thanks to this, although I'm now 61 years old, I can still ride on the sea. What happened next? By the way, Captain Keelan, you haven't told me why General Callista went to the Blessed Light Island. The helmsman Ricardo asked curiously. Of course, it was to complete the order of the new king of Comavia. At this point, Keelan's face showed a little more contempt. The second prince who succeeded to the throne, the new King Vigo, was not fit to be a king. After the death of his talented brother, he took office in a hurry. Not only did he ignore government affairs all day long, but he was also bewitched by his commoner Taylor Queen. He used the entire country's resources to please a woman, and made tens of thousands of citizens pay for his negligence. It seems that with a foolish king like Vigo, Comavia is doomed to perish. As I said before, Vigo was assassinated. Under the protection of General Callista, he did not die. Instead, the assassin accidentally stabbed his queen Isolde with a poisoned knife. Before General Callista left the island with us, Queen Isolde had already entered a state of deep poisoning. General Callista went to the Blessed Light Island to seek the water of life that could cure the poison for the poisoned Isolde. So was Queen Isolde rescued? If they had been rescued, Comavia would not have been destroyed, and the Blessed Isles would not have become the Shadow Isles filled with black fog and ghosts. The captain said in a deep voice, tapping his pipe unhappily. Moved by General Callista's sincerity, the Master of Helia promised to use the water of life to save Queen Isolde's life. Before we left the Blessed Isles, the priest of Helia also gave General Callista an amulet that could break the white fog, and told her not to tell this secret to others. She agreed on the spot. After replenishing the supplies, we left by boat and headed west, preparing to return to the kingdom of Comavia. Ahem. The background story of the Alliance is subject to this book, and the official text is for reference only. Manually funny, only asking for monthly tickets. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.